Royals do it in Royals fashion yesterday. They do it as royally as it gets. That was as royally of a game that has ever roiled for this particular team.
Yeah.
Because we talked about if they were to play the Astros, and credit to the Tigers for putting the 3 runs on the board in the second inning against Fran Valdez and having that hold, because Tariq Skubal is unfreaking real.
Did you watch that 9th inning? Because I was going back and forth.
I did.
And Mike, wasn't at bat by Chas McCormick. Chas McCormick beforehand. It was like an 11 pitch at bat and fouling off 100-mile-an-hour heaters, and then all of a sudden Jason Hayward comes up and rips
it.
Bases loaded.
That's a
2
centimeter,
outs.
That is a centimeter too low on the bat for the ball from being roped into the right field corner.
Scoring all 3.
And scoring all
scored all 3.
as opposed to just a end of the game. That's how close baseball is, and it was incredibly close yesterday. The margins were very close yesterday between the Royals and the Orioles. We'll talk about it. 913-912-4810. Seth Lugo goes to the mound today against Zach Eflin. 3:38 first pitch. We'll have it for you right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, your home for the Major League playoffs, the postseason, the World Series post-game with Joneson?
No. It's the singer.
Jake Joneson. Royals postgame with a fella named Jake Joneson today after the game is over. I'm looking forward to that. Haven't heard of the guy. Jason Anderson, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Jack Johnson hanging out with us.
Great bomber jacket yet again. That's like a windbreaker you have now.
Love it.
I'm going back in the closet every single time and finding new gear
Yes.
to pull out for each win that we have.
I should have done that as well. I wore my Royals 2014 We Own the Pennant ALCS championship shirt that I bought when they beat the Orioles, just to, in 14, just to run it back and get that same feel again. I should have continued the trend of just Royals postseason or Royals gear. Problem is, the only pullover and jacket that I have is like a full-on coat.
Yeah, mine too. I'm not trying to sweat in here.
Yeah, I know.
I already sweated once when the Royals clinched to go to the playoffs. I went golfing on that Saturday.
Good for you.
But I had a Royals.
About time you did that.
Royals. Well, someone had to. I had a Royals quarter zip. I made sure I wore it even though it was like 80 degrees by the time. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm letting everyone know the Royals are here, boys. I'm letting everyone know.
You don't stop what you're doing. You don't mess with a winning streak. Dylan, tell your story of Game 4, Houston Astros, Kansas City Royals, 2015, the comeback, what you were doing, and why Dylan maybe is the most responsible person for why the Royals won that game in 2015 against the Astros in Game 4.
Yes, as everyone that does their little lucky tricks, they all influence things that happen clear across the country.
And yours was the most influential. What happened?
So basically, I was playing at Independence Community College at the time, and our head coach was a Royals fan, so he had piped in the audio of the game to our speaker as we were practicing during the game. And I was doing my conditioning, which is running from foul pole to foul pole.
Doing some polls.
Well, see, that's
Were you dancing or running?
Well, no, I was running.
Okay.
The thing was, I just kept doing them because during that time was when the comeback happened. So I basically lost about 10 pounds.
You couldn't stop running. You couldn't stop running the polls because if you stopped running the polls, that comeback would stop.
Yep, all the way across the country.
Think about it. If Dylan stopped to just listen in and be like, "Oh my." The Royals would have lost that.
Correa gets the ground ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he stops halfway through,
as soon as I stop.
He doesn't bounce that high.
Butera strikes out instead of having one of the most impressive at-bats of the entire postseason.
3-pitch strikeout.
It's McCann.
Yeah.
It's McCann 3-pitch strikeout is what Butera ends up doing.
Me and Forrest Gump, we were running for
right.
things. We were running for something.
And then after the game was over, Dylan went up to his coach and said,
"You're welcome.
I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now." Just as Forrest Gump
They canceled
did.
weights for it, actually.
Yes. 913-912-4810. Text says, I was watching and listening to that game on the cell phone walking through Costco. My wife told me to turn it off because it was so annoying and nobody wanted to listen to it, yet every person we passed wanted to know the score.
That's what we were doing, basically. It was
Exactly
like,
right.
It sucked for anyone that was a
Yes.
Royals fan, but anyone that
Yes.
wasn't was just getting a free practice, basically.
Right, and you know what? And tomorrow there are so many different scenarios. Let's just go ahead and take care of business for the Royals today, and not have to worry about tomorrow. With maybe starting at 3 o'clock, maybe starting at 1 o'clock, maybe starting at 6:30. All of that is floating around as to what may happen depending on results today. But how about this? How about just get ready for your next game in New York on Saturday, which is perfect timing for a dummy over here's wedding on Saturday night. But 9-1 has nothing to do with anything.
Wait, who's the dumb guy getting married Saturday? Because there's a smart guy getting married Saturday.
Yeah, getting married isn't dumb. Getting married in October.
Remember, it's the other side that's making the questionable decision,
Yeah,
not
getting married in October is a questionable decision, and now she's gonna be walking down the aisle at first pitch for the Royals and Yankees in Yankee Stadium in Game 1 of the ALDS.
Like,
if they
that's
win
at
tomorrow.
4 o'clock.
You're
Wedding's
walking
at 4. Walking
Okay.
at 4.
Okay, you're fine.
You should be
5:30.
fine.
Yeah, you know
should be
why?
fine.
You know
Fine.
why I'm smart?
Did you move it up?
The Mizzou game in A&M's at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, because you knew that when you scheduled
Royals,
that. You had no idea
playoffs.
they were going to put it up. They didn't announce the times for the
I am such
college
a
football
smart
game.
man.
SEC did announce times earlier this year than they've ever done. They
Yeah.
announced windows, but your wedding was already set before they announced. If that's a 2:30 kick for Mizzou and A&M, you're still walking, or she's still walking down the aisle at 4 o'clock.
Call me a ventriloquist
Well, you throwing
because
your,
I'm pulling strings.
Isn't that a puppeteer?
Yeah, that's a puppeteer, yeah.
Shoot. Okay, so I'm the dumb guy getting married Saturday.
I was going to say, what are you throwing your voice over? You're a ventriloquist. You're throwing your.
Yeah, don't they use like a little bit of like the little puppet things too? I think there was a puppet that sits on their lap that does the talking, so they're still pulling strings.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's brilliant, Dylan. Absolutely brilliant. Texas, are there any good Orioles complaints on Reddit after the game yesterday? I did not look at. Maybe we'll look at sad fans on Reddit if the Royals pull it off today or tomorrow. Maybe we'll do some Orioles sad fans.
What's the Kansas City playoff streak against Baltimore?
5 in a row?
No, like both sports.
Oh,
If you
5,
get-
6 in a row.
6
Yeah,
in a row.
They just add one.
Yeah, because
Just one.
they've only played the Ravens in the playoffs one time.
I mean,
because the Ravens typically lost before they got a chance to play the Chiefs.
Was this what Edgar Allan Poe was
That's what
writing
he said.
about?
He was
like,
quoting.
Kansas City was the Raven.
That's exactly right. Let's talk about the game. Well, here's how the show lines up. We'll talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up an hour from now, NFL Network analytics expert. Get her thoughts on the NFL, the Chiefs, and certainly we'll talk some football today as the Chiefs get ready for Monday Night Football. There are no Chiefs press conferences today because this is technically a Tuesday for the Chiefs on a Wednesday because they play on a Monday. You follow along. And tomorrow will be a Wednesday on a Thursday because they play on a Monday. So no Chiefs press conferences today. We'll talk with Braden Gall at 12:30. Potentially we'll hear from the Royals today depending on what time they start. Mick Schaefer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. Reagan's was brilliant last night, and he has been absolutely brilliant in his last 5 starts. Last 5, so last 4 of the regular season, and then yesterday, 31 innings pitched, which is roughly 6 2/3, averaging in those 5 games. He's 4 outs away from averaging 7 innings over 5 straight starts. But 31, and he might have got him yesterday if it wasn't for the cramps. 31 innings pitched, .87 ERA in those 5 games. .97 WHIP in those 5 games. 34 strikeouts in 31 innings. 29 total base runners in 31 innings. 9.9 strikeouts to walks. And the last 2 games, this is what's really impressive. The last 2 games that Cole Reagans has gone to the mound. He was on the mound against the Nationals with a 7-game losing streak. He was on the mound yesterday against the Orioles, game 1 of the wild card. Back-to-back games, 6 innings, no earned runs. But what's impressive is 11 of those 12 innings that he pitched did not have the lead. 11 of the 12 innings he pitched, the Royals had a goose egg on the scoreboard. 11 of the 12 innings he pitched, if he gave up a run, they would then be losing. 11 of those 12 innings. The only inning he pitched in these last 2 games off a 7-game losing streak and game 1 of the wild card was the bottom of the 6th inning after the Royals scratched across a run in the top of the 6th. It's the only time he's gone to the mound with a lead in these last 2 games. He has had to be perfect, and he's damn near been that. It's unfreaking real what he has looked like, and credit J.J. Piccolo and the scouts and the coaching staff for recognizing, seeing some of the analytics that JJ talked about, was it yesterday, about Cole Reagans, and when they traded for him, that there were some analytics that were sort of changing that they saw with Reagans that they could maybe hone in on. They recognize that. They've developed that, and they have a true ace, not just an ace of their staff. They have a capital TRUE, capital ACE, that goes to the mound every 5 days and went to the mound in game 1. And we'll see, hopefully, he'll be on the mound again in the postseason.
Yeah.
Looking like he has. It's just locked in right now for Cole Reagans.
Was that the best we've ever seen his curve and changeup look? Because I was trying to think of any other game.
I thought it was his best command we've seen. Like, he was spot on in some of the curve that he threw when Salvi did his glove upside down, like, hey, and then bury it. I can't remember who that was against. I'll have to go look at my notes. And Reagans put the curve exactly where Salvi wanted, swung over the top, strike 3. Salvi points to him. Like, I thought Reagans was just hitting spots all day long.
I think it was McCann, if I'm not mistaken, when it was 1st and 3rd, 1 out. He got
That's
the 3-pitch
exactly right.
strikeout.
That was
There was
the
the
third
curveball,
pitch.
and then it was Gunnar the next at bat.
Because he held his palms up with the glove. It's like, hey, drop it in here down low. All right.
Side note from that, whenever you can have the free swing away sign for your 9-hitter, when you got
we'll get into
a guy
that in a second.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a second. We'll get into that in a second. But Jack, you were saying?
I just think when you look at the pressure that he had in this game, because I do believe the Orioles are the team that has all the pressure in this series.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think for a lot of Royals fans, they didn't want to go out there and see 8-0, right? Their ace, Cole Reagans, go out there and get shelled. And I compared both his and Scooble's start yesterday. I don't know if anybody had the chance to watch the beginning of Detroit and Houston. There wasn't a lot of people there. It looked like a regular season game. Now, eventually it filled up. But to me, you compared the first couple of innings of what Tarek Skubal had to deal with, and then Cole Reagans. That place was ridiculously loud.
Yes. Yeah.
Easy first inning, easy second inning. Had the leadoff double, I think, in the 3rd inning. Was able to dance around that. Had MJ Melendez looking like probably what I would look like out in left field on a ball like that. Dances around that as well. I mean, I would put that up in at least top 3 for postseason starts all time. I mean, there's not many to pick from there, but
for the
if you're
Royals,
putting that, for the Royals.
I was going to say there was some no hitters.
There were some no hitters, but
I don't know what
Royals
that was.
franchise history. I don't know how much better you can get with that
Yeah.
command wise. No walks. I think he had less than 30 balls in that game too.
20.
So 20
80
total.
pitches, 60 strikes.
It was unbelievable. Let's talk about the. So I was flipping back and forth, listening to New Day, and then when they were playing some sound from like Reagans and Quattrero, and I had already heard it, so I'm like, all right, let me see what Baltimore's talking about. 104.5 The Fan is their big station in Baltimore, sports radio station. All right, let me listen to Rob Long. I've known Rob for a long time, and he's pretty passionate about his Ravens and Orioles. So I'm like, all right, let me bounce back and forth when I can tune in over and see what Baltimore's talking about. And their complaints, exactly the notes that I was taking. Only I was talking about that one game yesterday because I haven't watched the Orioles all season long. But their complaints are, this team might be the dumbest when it comes to situational baseball. Like, this team does not know how to play situational baseball. This team, these hitters, everybody's swinging away. Everybody's trying to hit home runs. It's what they've done. Yes, it's how you've built your team. You're not going to change. And the point he made is, hey, what's everybody complaining about Lamar Jackson in the playoffs? He's not running enough. He's staying in the pocket trying to be a passer. Go be Lamar Jackson. Oh, you stopped running the ball against the Chiefs in the second half. You changed what you were. This is who they are. They're either going to do that, or we're going to be talking about what happens in spring training next year tomorrow. That's what's going to happen. This team is not a situational baseball team. I haven't watched them every game, so I don't know that to be the case. But I know that to be the case yesterday because I think the Orioles, we very easily could be talking about a 1-0 or a 2-0 Orioles win or a 2-1 Orioles win. I think there's an element, and this is not to take anything away from what Cole Reagans did and what the Royals did. There's an element here of the Royals stealing a game from the Orioles who, if they played it differently in certain times, could have, it's not a guarantee, could have played it across a couple of runs or won just simply 1-0. And that is in the 3rd inning, Cedric Mullins did admire his fly ball a little too long. He's at 3rd. if he's not watching it and walking 4 steps, walking to first for a guy that runs like Mullins is the difference between a second and a double and a triple. Because it wasn't a close play at second. He went into second standing up. That ball was hanging in the air and hanging in the air and hanging in the air. Should have been a triple. It's a double. Your number 9 hitter with Gunnar Henderson on deck in a game where you know runs are at a premium. You got Cole Reagans over there who has been throwing BBs. You got your guy on the mound in Corbin Burns, who has been one of the hottest pitchers in all of baseball the last, 6 weeks. And you've got all the pressure on you to win a game. There is a difference in sort of mindset and feel in a game like that to see a run on the board as opposed to a 0. And you let McCann swing away, and 3 pitches later, you've got 1 out and a man still at second. Gunnar Henderson hits a ground ball, then a fly ball into Yellowstone, thankfully, by Westberg, and Cole Reagans is out of the inning. Now, maybe if McCann bunts him over, and it's one of those things where, like, okay, well, is McCann a guy that's ever sacrificed bunt? Is he that good? What if he tries to lay down a bunt twice and he fouls him off, and now you're stuck 0-2 against Reagan, blah, blah, blah. He's a major league hitter. He should probably be able to lay down a bunt. We've had this conversation with Les Norman just like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were talking about MJ. And not specifically saying that situation, just it was a general conversation of can you lay down a bunt or should you ask that guy to lay down a bunt if he's not a, quote, sacrifice bunter.
But look, it shows up when it matters.
When it matters, exactly. And McCann swings away and he strikes out. If Mullins is at third with 1 out, does Gunnar Henderson change his approach of I just need a fly ball here as opposed to I need a base hit?
His ground ball would have scored him. It was a grounder to first, deep in the hole.
I mean, if they had the infield in, if they had, I do think Quattrero would have had the infield in with 1 out and a guy at third. He does that all season long. But I don't know where Gurriel would have been placed. That might have gotten past Gurriel. I have no idea. No idea what would have happened. Or if he hits something. Or if Reagans throws a different pitch and different pitch sequence. No idea. But I know this. They played it with their number 9 hitter with a leadoff double in a pitcher's duel. In a game where you've got all the pressure. And you are going up against an offense that can't score. And your guy's on the mound. 1 run could do it. And you don't get it done. And the Royals get an amazing walk from Michael Garcia. What a freaking at-bat by Garcia. We'll talk about what we discussed yesterday with sort of changing the narrative on different players.
Alcides Escobar 2.0.
That's right. Garcia's walk, stealing second, Massey not striking out, also getting the ground ball to the right side, although I think Garcia scores from second anyway if he's at third. But regardless, hey, I'm putting the ball in play and I'm hitting it to the right side because that's where Massey hits it anyway, except for, off the end of the bat. But still, Bobby Witt, who the first couple at bats swung at pitches and popped him up to the right side. And everybody knows with Bobby Witt that if you get him the first couple at bats, he's screwed. He can't get out of his own head. He will never be able to. Oh, wait a minute. He's freaking Bobby Witt. And you got a guy on deck with 2 outs who's had literally 2 at-bats since August 29th. 2 at-bats since August 29th. And you pitch to the batting crown, batting title champion, best shortstop in baseball. You pitch to him instead of a guy with the screws in his thumb and sitting on deck that had 2 at-bats since August 29th. Like, if I was an Orioles fan, I would be I couldn't believe it as a Royals fan that they pitched to Bobby Witt.
Yeah.
You don't bunt the guy over with your number 9 hitter with 1, 2, 3 coming up with Gunnar Henderson, and then you pitch to Bobby Witt. Those 2 decisions make sense as to why the conversation this morning in Baltimore was this team is dumb with situational baseball. They don't know how to play it. They lose games like this. They'll slug their way to wins or they'll lose these games. And if that's the case, then I feel pretty damn confident the Royals find a way to win one of the next 2 games.
Well, and that's what you said. We like this matchup for Kansas City way more than Houston because Houston is kind of a chameleon. They're so talented in so many different ways. If they wanted to play small ball, as we saw in the 9th inning, they ended up losing that game, but they were able to do that. And it was interesting that McCann was up twice in the biggest moments because he was up again in the bottom of the fifth, and that was the 3-pitch strikeout. That was when Urias had that. Was that the double?
That was the double to left field that
MJ should have caught, and then
that was the one-out double. It wasn't a leadoff; it was a one-out double.
It was a one-out, yes, because Cows are grounded out to first, and then
Yeah.
Mullins had the single to center.
Yep.
I thought they might send him. They didn't send him.
Isbell did a good job deking that.
I was
going to
say it.
No, he did. He did a great job.
It held up just long enough to where there was a chance where you make that play, and I get it if you're like, all right, it'll be first and third with one out, as opposed to if they catch this, we're out of the inning.
It's a double play.
Yeah, we're out of the inning.
But what Reagan's did to McCann was phenomenal. We can talk all we want about how, well, he 3 straight pitches, 3 straight swings. First pitch was a phenomenal changeup that clipped the bottom of the zone. Second pitch was a fastball that was it high and outside? Or was it high and in?
I think it was high and in.
High and in at 95. Also clipped the strike zone, and he swung. And then the final one was the knuckle curve in the dirt.
Yeah.
But the first two, I mean, those were both strikes. He just got it by McCann. He had McCann guessing up there. That's what Cole Reagan really did because he picked up MJ. Because if the Royals lose that game, I think the main talking point is probably it should be the bats scoring 1 run. But it would have been MJ Melendez just looking like a drunk beer league softball player in left field.
The Royals score 1 run, and they get a runner in scoring position twice in the game. Garcia was at second, and Garcia was at third. Those are the 2 times, right? Anybody else? Because Garcia walked and stole second, and then in the 9th, Garcia was at second after the walk to Vinny. After Vinny worked the walk, and Salvi was up there with first and second 2 outs. It's the only 2 times they got somebody in a scoring position. Where the Orioles had guys in scoring position, I think 3 or 4 different times that they had guys in scoring position. Twice with Cole Reagans, once with Bubic, and then with Ursig in the 9th as well. So 4 different times. In the 3rd, the 5th, the 8th, and the 9th, the Orioles had runners at least at second. And they got no runs. The Royals found a way to get out of that. The Royals had Garcia at second twice. And they found a way to get a run. It was an incredibly entertaining game because the pitchers out there doing what they were doing and because the Royals had somebody on the mound that was matching Corbin Burns. And I don't know the last time we can say there was a pitcher for the Royals that would go out there and match the American League starter in the All-Star game in Game 1, who's been one of the hottest pitchers in baseball, and match him out for out the entire time and go 6 innings, 8 strikeouts. Thankfully and not thankfully. Thankfully, it was cramps that he left the game with. Not thankfully that it was cramps, but thankfully it was cramps because, boy, I had Blake Snell memories popping up of, was that Kevin Cash for the Rays?
Yep.
In 2020 with the guy, Snell had 5 innings and 2 hits.
God, he was only on like 57.
It was almost like they got that news out as fast as possible so that everyone didn't think because I was thinking the same thing.
I was like, that's what is going on? I had plenty of people and they were like, fireable offense, what is going on? And I'm like, you know what? If Sam Lone comes in and gets blown up, I don't know that I'm like, this is absurd.
I was livid at first.
We were reliving 2014 wild card.
Yeah, like Giordano, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But like he was rolling, and we'll hear from Q on the other side of the break, talk about that. And obviously Quatrero was not going to take him out of the game. That was not the plan whatsoever. So everybody was able to calm down in terms of Quatrero is Kevin Cash reincarnate. So it's not the case. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Johnson. Royals in action today, Game 2 of the wild card. They lead 1-0 in the series. Our Major League Baseball playoff coverage on Sports Radio 810 WHB brought to you by Greenlight Dispensary. Check out greenlightdispensary.com for all premium cannabis products during the playoffs. 913-912-4810. What do we think of Game 2 here for the Royals? What do we think of Game 2 with Seth Lugo on the mound and Zach Eflin on the mound for the Baltimore Orioles? This is one of those to where we talked about Game 1, and I'd mentioned it yesterday and on Monday as well, that I felt Game 1 was the most important game for the Orioles to almost feel like you have to win that one, because the Royals have the pitching matchup advantage in Game 2 and Game 3. The Royals got Game 1, and now they have put themselves in a fantastic position to move on to face off against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. Hopefully that's the case starting on Saturday. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that it's a definite. It does mean that it would be, I think it would be, disappointing at this point now. Like going into the playoffs, if you lost the wild card off, you get it. The Orioles are a good team and Corbin Burns. You lost Game 1, you won one of the next two, and you lost two games to one in the 3-game series. But I think at this point, when you beat Corbin Burns, I think it would be a total letdown if they don't find a way to win one of the next 2 games. And that's the position they put themselves in, but it's also the position they put the Orioles in, because we said the Orioles have now lost 9 straight games in the postseason. And this group of players has lost 5 games consecutively in the postseason. And this group of players remember what happened last year against the Rangers. And this group of players will be in a ballpark tonight where the fans are going to be filled with anxiety and nerves and I hope nothing bad happens.
Rage. If something happens, the Boo Birds.
The first inning is crucial tonight. Like if the Royals find a way to scratch across even a run, but a couple runs against Zach Eflin in the first inning, the puckering and the oh no, here we go again, and the crowd of the nervous energy and the anxiety of, oh my God, we're going to freaking lose both games. We're going to lose 10, postseason games in a row. First inning could be absolutely crucial tonight if the Royals find a way to get a couple of runs against Zach Eflin after yesterday's game.
My concern, and the Royals...
This is his concern, dude.
Q should know early. Which Seth Lugo are you getting?
Yeah.
In his last 14 starts, 6 of them, he's given up 4 or more runs. The other 8, he's been pretty much nails. It's either 0, 1, or 2, right? They doesn't really have many threes out there. It's not many 6 innings, 3 runs. It's either he's going 7, it's 1 run, it's electric, or it's he's getting shelled. That's been kind of a 50-50 coin flip in his past 14 starts. So that's my concern is which Seth Lugo do you get?
And I think the first inning, this might be anecdotal, but I feel like in the first inning, if Seth Lugo gets that sort of low strike right at the bottom part of the strike zone, that if he gets that, then it almost feels like he gets locked in. Because there have been a couple of times where some of those games where he's given up a number of runs, in the first inning it looked like he got squeezed on 1 or 2 pitches and then got annoyed. And then it's like, okay, then he starts missing his spots. Then it's like, okay, now he's too fine. Now he's too much in the strike zone and he's getting hit. Where early in the game, if he gets a borderline call, that is a strike, but it's, and he believes it's a strike and it's called and it's called a strike, it almost feels like, all right, let's go. Whereas if it's been called a ball, and again, this might be anecdotal, but it just felt like a couple of those games, it was like, oh my God, that was a strike, and he didn't get the call. Then he walked that guy, then he gave up a hit, and then he was sort of fighting it the rest of the time of like, well, if I put it there, is it strike? He doesn't put it at that spot again. If it's early on, and you get that, I think it's a really good point about which Lugo you're going to get, and Q, will probably have a pretty decent idea of which guy that you are going to get today for Seth Lugo.
The positive is, too, that at least in September, I think it was, he pitched in 2 parks that had the short porch and right on the road, and he's been a much better road pitcher this year than he has been at home. He faced that Houston lineup, who's got powerful lefties in it, Yordan Alvarez being the most notable. And then at Yankee Stadium, when he had his 7 shutout innings and 10 strikeouts, he had to deal with that short porch and right. So I think that can give you a little bit more hope, but you're exactly right. I think early on, if he gets the low strike call, that usually dictates what's going to happen. Because if he starts missing his spot, he just doesn't have the lights out stuff that Cole Reagans does to be able to get the swing and miss. If he's missing all over the place, he's walking guys, that could put Baltimore early on in the spot where they could take a lot of control in this game.
Let's hear from Matt Quattrero weighing in on Cole Reagans after the game and what happened as Cole Reagans. He starts off talking about what the issue was, why he was pulled from the game.
Well, first of all, it was just cramping in his, I believe it was his left calf. But before that, we should just say how he pitched his butt off. I mean, that was incredible. But yeah, he came off the field. I actually, he was walking by me, and he said something, but I couldn't tell what he said, so I just said, "You're good," like kind of joking with him, like he's definitely going back out there. And then he called me down the tunnel and just said, "Last couple hitters, my leg was cramping," and we've been through this before. It doesn't usually just all of a sudden stop happening, so we needed to make a decision, not a decision. We needed to make a move there, and so we got Sammy ready as quick as we could.
And that was in the 6th that he said, after the 6th that he said that.
Yeah, as he walked by after the 6th.
Any concern moving forward for him?
No, none at all. Yeah, he'll hydrate, he'll do all the stuff they need to do, and it was very mild, but he was being honest with us because we've been down that road before, and it doesn't usually go well after that.
Q, could you see any emotion from Reagans at all going out to the mound to start this thing? I mean, given that this is his first playoff appearance and.
I don't think so. My interaction with him today, was we were dealing with the weather there, and so I communicated with him a few times, but he seemed very calm. He seemed, who knows what it was like on the inside. I'm sure you guys will ask him, but, I felt really good when I saw those first 2 fastballs be 97, 98, and in the zone. So the fact that he was controlling his emotions and able to execute right out of the gate, and then the other thing that really made me feel good was the 7-pitch second inning. It got him back on track, and because it looked like Burns. He just threw one strike after another, so we didn't want that pitch count to get up.
It's interesting. He was joking, Quattrero, when he came out of the 6th. He was joking. "You're good," as in like we're taking you out. You're good. Nice job. Way to go. I was joking with him, and he was like. Yeah, not a joke. I got these cramps. It's interesting that he said they've dealt with this before with cramps in his calf. And he said, when we've dealt with it before, it doesn't usually go well after that. So apparently there has been a game or two where he's had cramps and tried to fight through it, and it didn't go well. And went back out there and got hit around. It might be one of those games where you're going, well, he tried to steal an extra inning from Cole Reagans, and it didn't. Sure. He didn't get that extra inning from Cole Reagans. He got hit around. It might have been one to where, all right, I'm having cramps a little bit. All right, let's see if we can work through this, because maybe you need to know for the postseason if you can work through it. Because maybe one of those games earlier this year, working through the cramps, and it didn't go well, allowed them to make a more informed decision yesterday afternoon of, all right, he's cramping in that left calf. Brian, we've been through this before. Let's get Sammy up. Let's see what we got in the bullpen. He gets a little bit more time because he is taken out for injury, so the umpires have more leeway with that to give him a little bit more warm-up time. But let's get him up because we've experienced this already, and we have more information on how he pitches when he's been dealing with this cramp.
I do think it's interesting that people were on the X and saying, drink pickle juice, give him a banana. I'm like, dude, it's not just going to go away that quickly. But yeah, it's not going to go away that quickly. And also as a pitcher, like, it's a pretty big deal. That's when you start losing your mechanics. He was great, and credit to him for almost going to Q and saying that, because what if he didn't say anything, he tries to go back out, and all of a sudden he loses it, and he gets shelled, or he walks 3 guys before he gets pulled. Sometimes you got to tip your cap and say, hey, he knows when he's maybe about to lose it.
I think the funny part about that, too, on Twitter is when Sam Long fell behind 3-1 right after he'd been pulled, it's like they are one pitch away from a meltdown everywhere with everybody.
Yeah, and you know what? And I tweeted it out after the inning, but, hey, man, credit Sam Long. hell of a job, because there's no way Sam Long, when Cole Reagans was walking off the 6th inning, thought, I'm coming in for the 7th.
Exactly.
Great call.
No
Zero chance. I need to get mentally ready. Here we go. No chance.
The
He
other
thought he
thing
was
that
coming
people
in.
don't realize is momentum in baseball. Whether it was because he had a cramp or not, when you make a decision that the other team is happy about, it completely
thought the
flips
same
the
thing.
momentum.
Thought the
And
same thing. It's
all
like,
the
yep,
Orioles
The
players
crowd got back into
Yes.
it.
Yes, you're right. Like
Yeah.
the crowd even was happy about it. One, it's to how good Cole Reagans was pitching,
Right.
And then also like Sam Long, to your point, like to come in and just flip the momentum right back and get out of that inning.
10 pit. He started out 2-0,
Yeah.
and 8 pitches later he was out of the inning. I mean, it's like
He only threw 4 strikes.
unbelievable that he was able to do that. But you credit the guys to come in and get the job done. We talked about that when MacArthur didn't come through, and it was like, okay, who's Q going to go to? And that I can't remember what game that was, but the three of us had that conversation of, let's go through. Urseg wasn't available, Bubic wasn't available, Daniel Lynch wasn't available. You're going to go with probably Schreiber, or Bubic was available. You're going to go Schreiber and Bubic in the 8th and 9th. So who you going to? Carlos Hernandez or this guy or that guy? It's like, okay, you go to MacArthur. Also, MacArthur can come through and do his job. Sam Long did that and went out there and pitched the way that he did. And, no way that he was sitting there in the bullpen going, 7th inning's mine, 7th inning's mine. Because, honestly, at that point, aren't you thinking, if you're Sam Long, we're up 1-0, I probably don't have to pitch today. Because the 7th inning's going to be Cole. The 8th inning may be Cole, but the 8th inning's going to be Chris, and then the 9th is going to be Lucas. And I should be ready if they give up a run, or if there's 2 outs and there's a lefty coming up, I'll be ready for that. But I ain't coming in right now. This is not my position that it's. I need to be ready to go. Who's getting the ring there, Jack?
Gosh, so many people I could go with here. I could go with Sam Long there. I could go with Lucas Ursig. I could go with Bobby Witt Jr. But we got to stick with the obvious choice here. We're going with Cole Reagan. 6 shutout innings, 8 strikeouts in Game 1 of the wild card. So he is going to get the ring today. And Who Gets the Ring is brought to you by Rubeck Fine Jewelry. Check out their amazing new location by scheduling your appointment today at rubeck.co. That's rubeck.co.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling with some Royals talk. Cynthia Freeland coming up at 11 o'clock. We'll get back into some Royals talk after Cynthia. Braden Gall in the noon hour talking some college football today. Mick Schaefer at 1 o'clock. More Zone next. Talk with Cynthia Freeland at 11 o'clock, 913-912-4810, talking some Royals. Tex says, I hate to say it, but if the Royals pitch to Bobby Witt today, they're nuts. I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. Maybe early in the game they may, but that's where, like...
if the Royals pitch to Bobby Witt, they're nuts? Yeah, I think that'd be pretty insane.
No, that's not what he said.
Orioles.
Not what he said. If the,
What you said.
Did I say Royals? My
think
bad.
so.
Said I hate to, he said it, but if the Orioles pitch to Bobby
There you
Witt
go,
today,
yeah.
there you go. My bad. The text was right, not to me. Text says, workday afternoon playoff games, not fair to fans. I don't disagree. Obviously, they got to get all of those things in as well. Text says, I'd argue that Spags made the Ravens stop running with his game plan. I completely agree. But if you're in Baltimore, that's what they're complaining about, is that they stopped running. Just as the Orioles, they don't have to stop swinging for the fences because that's what they do.
analyze the data.
If you can keep that big booty down, like if you're a big boy, if you're very tall and you can keep your booty down low, then you are far more successful.
She's crunched the numbers, and the results are clear.
The back of booty isn't as good, as it turns out.
If she picks a dog, she'll have the math to back it up.
It's not like Travis Kelce is done. My dog is very excited about this, just so you know.
It's Cynthia Freeland of NFL Network. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
That's right. Time to talk a little NFL football, some Chiefs football with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. We'll get back into the Royals and the Orioles game 2 here in just a little bit. But let's talk some NFL football. The Chiefs are 4-0, one of 2 teams to be 4-0. And as everybody puts most of the time, Cynthia, the quarterbacks you put at the top of the league of 4-0 would be Patrick Mahomes and Sam Darnold, like everybody predicted. Correct? Sam Darnold, Patrick Mahomes. Is there now an argument as to who the best quarterback in the league is?
I mean, you could, obviously we were all thinking it was going to be between Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, and Patrick Mahomes.
That's right.
Just like we all
yes,
thought.
absolutely. 100%. 100%. But 2 4-0 teams, they've done it a little bit differently. Both teams have. But let's talk about this Chiefs team. They beat the Chargers on Sunday. They take care of business. They win 17-10. What's your takeaway and reaction from the Chiefs winning that game? They're 4-0, but boy, they've done it by sort of the same script 4 weeks in a row.
Doesn't really matter. Once it's in the record book as a win, it's in the record book as a win. So, I mean, I was there, so my streak
That's
remained
right.
intact, which
Great
obviously
call.
everyone cares about the most, clearly. Watching it live, obviously the adjustments made after Rashee Rice was no longer in the game were really interesting to see. Obviously, adding Kareem Hunt was good, but I was exceptionally impressed with the defense. I understand that we're not looking at the Chargers being like world beaters. These are the guys. They're doing, everything on offense, but this, the discipline and the ability for, Chris Jones specifically to get after the quarterback. They do some funny things, dropping Justin Herbert back further than they had in years past, et cetera. So, to try to keep him away from a little bit of pressure. But the Chiefs had an answer. And, while we had to see, it was good to see the adjustments on offense, but also the defense remained just dominant as we're coming to expect from the team.
I think there is a commonly held belief that is really surprising through 4 weeks of the season around here, and not much argument from those that even may disagree. It's not like you would die on a hill on this, and that being through 4 games, the MVP of this team is Chris Jones. That includes, usually it's Cynthia, we go, well, who's the MVP after Patrick Mahomes?
Right.
There's been a commonly held belief. We talked about it yesterday on the air. On Monday, we discussed that, it's time to start having the conversation of Chris Jones Defensive Player of the Year. But I think there's a pretty strong case to make that through 4 games, Chris Jones has been the MVP of this team because of how they've had to win these games.
Yeah, it's great to see, though, because, football is always complimentary. We talk about this, right? The Chiefs have been bitten by the injury bug a little bit more than maybe we're used to, at least this early on in the season. So adjusting to, and obviously making adjustments along the offensive line is an interesting one too. And you have to remember, teams play Patrick Mahomes where they keep the ball in front of them. So, everyone keeps being like, oh, this is like lowest air yard per attempt average, in his career. But, you have to remember that part of that is due to no one's giving Patrick Mahomes single high looks. They tried that week 1. It didn't go well. So you're not, especially with Xavier Worthy there, right? So you're looking at the opportunities and saying, okay, what's really happening here? And again, my whole, my theme for the Chiefs through the first 4 weeks of the season has been adjusting and making adjustments. And, it's not let's take a look at the Bills. And part of the reason why they were doing so well early is because Josh Allen hasn't turned the ball over. But Patrick Mahomes is turning the ball over, and this team is managing to adapt and find ways and keep it going. So that, to me, is actually sometimes a little bit more helpful than starting perfect, because you saw what happened with the Bills, just using them as a foil. They didn't have an answer when Derrick Henry just ran right over them. So, it's an interesting, adapting is actually a really key part of the season.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. And I think that's where one of those advantages for the Chiefs of where the coaching staff and continuity comes in. You know, we've talked about at the beginning of the season, Cynthia, you and I did before that Ravens game, of what the brain drain would be for the Ravens this year, and all of that turnover to their defense, and that hasn't been the case for the Chiefs. And I don't know, I'm connecting dots here. Maybe that's how, you know, with Andy Reid and his offensive staff and the defensive staff really essentially being in place for the last couple of years and multiple years on defense, that it makes it easier for those guys to be in cohesion and all in agreement in how the adjustments are going to be made, and the players that are a part of this team to make those adjustments on the fly, even if maybe it wasn't specifically a part of the game plan that week.
Exactly. I mean, that is the advantage. Like Steve Spagnuolo, the fact that he is like able to stay the defense, the fact that you're keeping your coordinators in place. I mean, the difference between the way people feel about the Eagles and the way people feel about, you know, even the Bills with, you know, I understand that their head coach is defensive minded and Bobby Babich was on the staff, but it's still a difference. And changing those things, the fewer things you can change that have to do with the structure, the better off you are. You know, like you're going to have to get new players. We understand. You're going to have to get, you know, you're going to have to make sacrifices because we do have a salary cap that we have to, you know, fall within. But apart from that, the more continuity, the better. And then in game, you can say, okay, you know, Ladd McConkey is now running a route that they used to have Mike Williams when he was on the team run. We know that route. Do you remember that last year? Yep, this is how he defended it. You know, that's the kind of thing where that familiarity can help just shorten the time between when you see something and how you're able to respond to it.
Cynthia Freeland is our guest. They lose Rashee Rice, and I know there are some that are holding out hope because of the mysterious sort of cryptic cloak and dagger type feel around, hey, we're not going to tell you what the injury is. He's going through more tests. Feared to have an ACL tear as of Sunday night, and it's Wednesday, and there are reports that we won't know until next week what it is. I'm more on the other side of my concern and worry, and my thought is more on the lines of this is just trying to figure out how extensive the damage is. I don't expect him to return this year, and I'm hoping it's just not one of those really damaged knees where, you know, you're talking about, you know, next year missing a number of weeks because he's still recovering from that. How do the Chiefs then move forward without the guy who had been the main part of being able to move the ball? Like, first couple of weeks of the season, Cynthia, it was Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco, and neither of them are on the field now. Replacing Isaiah Pacheco seemed to be easier than what could be replacing Rashee Rice. How do you think the Chiefs move forward, assuming, which I am, in that the Chiefs don't go out and make a move to bring in a bigger name wide receiver, which has been a lot of talk, but not necessarily Brett Veach's MO?
Well, first off, we can thank, in my opinion, we can thank Kyle Shanahan for cloak and daggerness, because that man has defined it. It's like he's like a lawyer, you know, like the precision of like, well, the rule says I don't have to say it until 11:59 and 10 seconds, so I will say it at 11:59 and 11 seconds. Like, you know, it's like ridiculous. Like anyways, but now that's kind of changed the way we look at things, or we hear things. But I just had to get a little digging on that because it's so silly. But I truly
what about Harbaugh? It's like, well, I'm not in a position. What do you think of this injury? I'm not in a position to weigh in on that. I can't. I'm not experienced in that injury. Okay, thanks, guy.
I mean, right. It's like, I'm not a doctor. You're right. You're not. But you're also the coach, and you're the only person we can.
And you've talked to doctors. So you've talked to the doctor.
Right. Like, you employ some.
We'll take the hearsay of what the doctor told you, okay? It's not admissible in court, but it can be admissible here as reporters.
I love it. So, but anyways, the way that you kind of counteract this is you figure out a way to use your other tight ends that aren't named Travis Kelce, who's getting double teamed at just a ridiculous rate. And that's what we saw them do, right? Kareem Hunt, knowing the game plan and being able to be effective right off the jump, right off the practice squad. I mean, you know, I hate when people say right off his couch, but basically right off his couch is really helpful. But, you know, it's the other tight ends and their ability to use that heavy personnel, those packages where they're disguised as, you know, they're tight end in number, but they're lined up as wide receivers. That's going to be really helpful, especially as they adjust to how the routes are going to look now, given the different personnel on the team. I mean, Marcus Valdez-Scantling's going to have to step up in a different way. They're going to have to change routes for Juju. Sky Moore is going to have to hold on to the ball and keep the routes that they're asking him to do. He's going to have to just do exactly what he's told. And really it's trusting that Andy Reid has the structure and game plan and depth of playbook, all things we know he has, but to be able to overcome something that's a pretty massive loss. I mean, it's very hard for any team to lose even their wideout 3, let alone their wideout 1.
I mean, MVS is with the Bills. I mean, they like giving receivers back to the Chiefs, but I don't think that's going to be.
Yes, sorry.
But you never know, though.
My mind slightly today.
You're good. You're good. You said MVS, and I'm like, don't you, Cynthia? You watch your mouth. All right, you watch your mouth around here saying Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
No, to be honest, I was just watching some Bills film,
yes,
but I was
right.
also looking at potential trade stuff because
right. I've heard his name
clearly
too.
That is in the ether today, and that is what we are looking at. So
100%.
I was just watching to see who could potentially come back that knows the playbook.
Honestly, it's like MVS and Demarcus Robinson are the names that I would be looking at the most, not Devontae Adams.
You're not getting Demarcus Robinson,
right.
though, because they don't have anything left there.
That's right. Fine, then just trade Cooper Kupp. That's fine. The Chiefs will wait for him to be healthy. Just trade Cooper Kupp. You can keep Demarcus Robinson. That seems like a good enough deal, right?
Yes.
Devontae Adams.
That's the strategy of this team, right? To go and get someone who has familiarity and depth of playbook. That's where we're looking. So that's I've busted my own next thought on it because no offense, you're not getting Devontae Adams. That is not how.
No, he wants to go to the Jets or the Saints. Shocker. He wants to play with Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. People have talked about DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think the Chiefs should look for somebody that's having trouble, separating right now in his.
Well, he's also injured.
Age.
Remember,
exactly.
He didn't play any.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins didn't play any of the preseason with an injury. So, I love DeAndre Hopkins. Let me be clear. That man is so fun. Like, you go back and watch those Texan days, and you're like, how did this man survive any of these catches? But he did. But it's that was a number of years ago and 2 teams ago.
Yeah.
So that ain't it.
If they were to make a deal for somebody, it would be closer to the Kadarius Toney deal where they traded for Kadarius Toney and they gave up a 3rd rounder for him, but it was also he's under contract and they're going to lose McCole Hardman, so this is a guy that will take McCole Hardman's spot next year. We'll see what we get from him this year, but really this is going to be a guy that we are planning for next year, and we can't get a Kadarius Toney on the free agent market. We think we can tap into some of the things that he has. That would be more of a Deontay Johnson. If you traded for Deontay Johnson, you would trade for him while wanting to extend his contract and say, we're trading for this guy, and he's going to be on the team for the next 3 years. Hollywood will let him walk at the end of this year, and we might bring Hollywood back next year, but if we trade for Deontay Johnson, that's now taking the spot of Hollywood Brown. So next year it's going to be Deontay and Xavier Worthy and hopefully Rashee Rice at some point.
I just wish that this, to be honest, when I was looking at potential suitors, I just wish that Devontae Adams, this was before, I started looking at obviously before we knew Devontae officially said out loud that he would prefer a trade, which I don't even know what that means. But, the one that I actually would really love on the Chiefs that I don't think anyone else is talking about is Jacoby Myers. That man is perfectly suited to be a Chief.
I wanted Jacoby Myers 2 years ago. I wanted them to go and sign him 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But
I watched some of the routes. Go watch last year specifically, and you're like, hot darn, that would be so fun for Patrick Mahomes, and it would create this element of like, get the heck away from Travis Kelce. So it'd be really, I don't know, but I've been looking around the league for like who could be this like mystery person that's not being used enough somewhere else, but I don't think they let go of Myers now in any way, shape, or form to a division rival, or without Devontae. So, it's not going to happen, but I would love it.
No, it's a great name because he was a guy that I absolutely wanted the Chiefs to go and sign because I think he's incredibly underrated in the type of player that he is. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Andy Reid, you talked about Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt looked pretty spry. I was pretty surprised, and we'll see maybe what he looks like against the Saints after coming off the couch and then touching the ball 16 times in an NFL game and getting tackled and hit and bumped and all of that stuff. So we'll see how his body responds. But Cynthia, I felt this way for a while about Andy Reid, and I don't think you and I have ever talked about it, that people say that, hey, Andy Reid is like a quarterback whisperer. He can get these different things out of different quarterbacks. I actually think Andy Reid is a running back whisperer more than anything.
100%.
Because Kareem Hunt was a third-rounder, and he's been amazing. But Spencer Ware, Charvarius Ward, Pacheco was a seventh-rounder. Damian Williams, they win a Super Bowl with. Carson Steele was an undrafted free agent. Now a 29-year-old Kareem Hunt. Like, I think Charkandrick West, yeah, what did I say? Charkandrick Ward? Charvarius Ward? Yeah, Charvarius Ward did not run the ball for the Chiefs. He was more of a cornerback. He's now with the 49ers. But still, yeah, Charkandrick West, Spencer Ware, all of these different guys that, hey, plug and plays, which goes back to why'd you draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round, but that's been litigated. But to me, he's way more of a running back whisperer of it really doesn't matter who's back there. They find ways to get that guy to produce for them. Yes, the quarterback matters, but his ability to get good production out of just random plug and place, what feels like replacement level players at times, is more of a running back whisperer than quarterback whisperer.
Agreed. I mean, I think to me it's also pre-snap. Can we call it like a pre-snap trickeration whisperer?
Love
because
it.
a lot of things can look the same, but they go to different players. Like it's the strategy of like the different ways. Because defense, right? Like the most simple way that that I understand and have been explained defense is you're really just seeing like what they can't do based on what happened. So the alignment, okay, it's not going to be this or that. Then the pre-snap motion, it's not going to be this or that. Like it's process of elimination on defense. And there is just nothing that gets eliminated by these Andy Reid pre-snap alignments, pre-snap, any of the things he does, that there's just nothing. You just don't give anything away. I mean, I was watching, I was tracking just with my hand because I was trying to be a fan and not like only do stats. I was just trying to like enjoy Patrick Mahomes' 100th game. But of course, I can't help myself. I was like, how many times are they running the exact same pre-snap motion, exact same one, maybe like a different tight end, but to the same side. Everything looks exactly the same and running a different play. It's wild. So part of that is, the tricks ahead of time, the window dressing or whatever you want, like eye candy, whatever silly announcers call it. But like, that kind of stuff ahead of the snap just makes defenses not have any idea what's going to happen. And then you're always worried Patrick Mahomes is going to dice you up. It's like a 1,000,000-yard touchdown to Xavier Worthy. But, that happens too.
I love the picture that I now have in my mind of Cynthia Freeland, who creates all these algorithms and is this expert when it comes to math and advanced analytics, that's sitting at a game sort of adding up the same way my 8-year-old does or 5-year-old on
my finger.
1 plus 4 for 4. Okay,
Yep.
4 plus 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 is 5,
Yeah.
6. Oh, it's 8, Daddy. It's 8. That's right, Jules. That's right, Juliet.
Exactly.
It is 8. Great job. That's awesome.
You're like, I mean, to be fair, my family's like, all right, like, I really try because I it's so good to go to games and like I feel so lucky that whenever I'm able to go because it's just so special.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to like, be fully present. No
Yes.
phone, we
Love
take
it,
our
yeah.
pictures and that's it. But no phone, no whatever. We just like are talking and enjoying and covering little kids' ears when the people next to them swear. But whatever. It's not like they haven't heard that in my house. We're good.
That's like you're going to take your son to a Chiefs game? He experiences a Chiefs game at home every single. Just kidding.
Right, like he knows.
Just kidding.
It's all
man.
but it's all fun, but it's hard. But so I sit there and I'm like, was that 8 or 9 times? And then my family's like, stop it, and I'm like, okay, I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Just watch the game. Just enjoy the game, okay?
Yeah.
Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert, is our guest. I want to get your thoughts on the Saints, and then I want to ask you a question briefly about the Ravens and even the Bills. But the Saints on Monday night, what's New Orleans bringing into Kansas City? An offense that scored 91 points the first 2 weeks and now has scored 36 the most recent 2 weeks. What is this Saints team? Explosive offense? Was it opponent related? What do you think of New Orleans?
Well, in the beginning, the play action and the outside zone run that's all they were doing. First 2 weeks, 80.5% of plays were either an outside zone run or play action pass, and that was it. So it was super simple and it was working. And that's always the best thing when you don't have to show your opponent much of your playbook and you can just keep doing like an insane number of what is it? Insanity is like doing the same thing, expecting different results. Like defense not adjusting. Okay, we'll just exploit you. But look, the Panthers, they had some issues, so that was part of it. But what I've noticed in the past 2 games that I think is more important and instructive is that they can't maintain fourth quarter leads. Past 2 games they've had them, and just stuff has happened, right? Like obviously this last game was a weird one. Falcons didn't score an offensive point. Like that's rare. But, I mean, we got a good soundbite from Raheem Morris saying stats are for losers, which I love. But that's weird. But it is when you're not able to close out games and you have Alvin Kamara, like that's weird, right? That's an odd problem to have. So I'm curious to see how they try to adjust for that. And, of course, Taysom Hill is always like the tricky trickster that comes in there, and he's kind of that, like, Jenga piece. And if he doesn't play because he missed the second half of the game last week, I think it was like a wrist or rib or chest injury, something that could potentially hold him out. That would be a huge difference maker. That would be the difference between covering the spread and not covering the spread in terms of what the final score is, in my opinion. So that's what I'd be looking for. But their defense has played really well, but I don't trust their offense, and I don't trust them to be able to close out games. But my fun fact for them is that they're one of 4 teams to score on all 4 opening possessions this season. Not always great teams there.
And the Chiefs have given up touchdowns on opening possessions. So
maybe that's something you could track is like, hey, we knew this was going to happen. Don't worry, though. They can't hold on to it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, and the Chiefs have been able. The defense has been able to adjust after those opening drives. So whatever's been going on with that. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. I'll get your thoughts on what the game's going to be on Monday. But I wanted to ask you about the Ravens because the Chiefs played them in Week 1. And then they lost to Vegas. They held on against Dallas, and then they dominated Buffalo. But the trend that we're seeing with Baltimore is 13 carries, 46 yards for Derrick Henry, 18 carries, 84 yards for Derrick Henry, 25 carries, 151 yards for Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 199 yards for Derrick Henry. Clearly, he's going to have like 215 this weekend because that's what's happening. Now, You pass to win, you run when you're winning. So these last 2 weeks when he's had, 50 attempts, they've been winning those games. So that makes sense. But it's also the 3.5 yards per carry, 4.7, 6, and 8.3. Is this just that the Ravens are getting adjusted to now how to use Derrick Henry against different defenses and Derrick Henry getting adjusted to, taking a handoff from a guy in the shotgun or in the pistol as opposed to under center? Was this somewhat expected that it would take a little bit of time for the running game with a new style and type and different runner to mesh and get going?
Well, the answer is yes, and also they're adjusting to life with 60% of their O-line now changed.
True.
So they had to figure out, usually what you see is the passer statistics on a team look weird when you change the offensive lineup. You get a lot more pass pressures and, all these things, but that's not how this Ravens offense works. So to me, the yards before contact were far more instructive. That's a rushing metric that just shows how much of a head of steam a guy like Derrick Henry or even Lamar Jackson gets before the opponents have a chance to even stop them. And you've seen a constant uptick in yards before contact. So they're getting more and more of a chance to get to a full run before a defender even has a chance to make contact with them. So that's kind of it. And also, I mean, to be fair, the Bills statistics are a little skewed because, I mean, we hadn't seen the Bills get punished for it, but like what's going on? Who's playing linebacker for them? Like, no one, like me, like someone my size, probably not helpful. And they also have, there's a ton of injuries in the spine of their defense, and they ran with a giant human being right at the vulnerable points. And then you saw like even, Taylor Rapp left that game. Like they were just, I'm not sure who they even had playing on certain downs there. I had to relook at the numbers, and I'm obviously very familiar with the Bills. So that's tricky too. So don't, when you're looking at this, look at the O-line and look at how, just as long as you're getting, some explosive plays with 10-plus yard rushes, but it's really about 5 or 6 yards per clip. That's what's more instructive.
Yeah, and you're big in the fantasy part of it as well. Is Derrick Henry moving up to like one of the top fantasy players now? He was sort of a low-end number one. We didn't know, but I've got him on my fantasy team, on my dynasty.
Well, that's good. I think you're in good shape.
People care about that.
I mean, the problem is like it'll be feast or famine because some teams will be well suited to be able to just shut him down. And by shut him down, I mean like hold him till like in the 70s, which is so great for your fantasy team, right?
That's
but
exactly
not
right.
make him just destroy your time of possession for the opponent. If you can't get your passing game going and you're playing the Ravens, it's just a terrible formula. They'll just burn the clock against you.
Well, one thing that everybody knows, they care about my fantasy team.
I know. They actually told me that. You know.
Nobody cares.
We have a stat. We have a clip that we play every time somebody mentions fantasy football. Dylan.
Nobody cares.
There it is. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They do care. They care about crazy bad beats and things like that. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We'll talk a little Royals. Sorry, one quick one, Cynthia. You're very familiar with the Bills. They're going to be playing the Bills coming up in 7 weeks or so. The Ravens in cover one against the Bills, and I think it's a risky proposition with a guy who can run like Josh Allen to not have some zone and some spies and things like that. But did they expose something with the Bills and the skill position players by just saying we're going to line up one-on-one and we don't think you're going to be able to beat us with these guys where, other teams and their skill position players may be able to beat us?
Well, it didn't help that Khalil Shakir got hurt. So it's because he's their most – I think he's caught all but one pass that was thrown to him. So that's pretty helpful. So you don't necessarily have that. Obviously there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve between Keon Coleman. He's a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. I think the thing that was more interesting was, they have great tight ends. They don't just have one of them. They have two on that team, just like the Ravens. And the fact that, it just was relatively quiet from any of those guys who are in that space, right? Maybe they could have put Keon Coleman trying to trick them and run something that looked, or run a play that looked like a passing thing that could be to the tight end, but then it went to Keon Coleman. Something they just didn't. They weren't very creative with those tight ends, and that to me said more because the Ravens do allow a lot of yak. So why wouldn't you put yourself in a place where you're keeping Josh Allen from turning the ball over, which has clearly been a focus this year, and then you're also putting yourself in a position to get I don't know. That to me was the confounding part. So it's what you measure matters. And if the only thing you're measuring is not turning the ball over for Josh Allen, okay, then A+. You achieved that, but you need to win the game.
That's right. And no interceptions for Josh Allen.
That's right.
This year. All right, what do you think happens on Monday night? Chiefs and Saints here in Kansas City.
Probably a little closer than Chiefs fans want. I have a 4-point win. That assumes that Taysom Hill is playing. If there is no Taysom Hill, that number becomes far more in favor of the Chiefs. And it is a defensively fought game. We see the difference between Derek Carr under pressure and not. And a type of pressure that really, really disturbs him is a giant Chris Jones-shaped interior pressure right from where he runs. So it is really the defense that is bolstering that number, even though I have them scoring 25 points. It's not 25. It's not like the Falcons 25 points without any offensive points. It's just that the defense drives the win.
Yeah, we don't want a close game, Cynthia, but we know we're getting it. It's basically every week. So.
It's the Chiefs, of course. It's going to be closer than the Chiefs fans want. It's just what the Chiefs fans expect.
Well, Chiefs fans want. Look, I would I would have been happier with a 14-point padding there. Because I'm going to tell you, the traffic in Los Angeles is terrible. So I was like, if they could be up by 21 points in the fourth quarter, that would be great. So then I can get a little jump on the traffic. But I guess everyone would have done the same thing. So it wouldn't have.
I saw a Chiefs fan tweet out over the weekend said, "Man, being a Chiefs fan is really stressful because you don't know if one week they're going to win 21-17. You don't know if they're going to win 17-14. You just don't know how many points they're going to win by. But it's always close. It's so stressful." It's that's very good. Hey, Cynthia, do your Tigers get it done today? Tyler Holton on the mound against Hunter Brown. Do your Tigers take care of business and move on to face off against the Guardians over the weekend?
God, I hope so. Listen, you guys, congratulations. I love a good – listen, baseball's a fun – I love the postseason in baseball for sure.
Great.
But being a Tigers fan is terrible because it gets bad.
No, it's great because we don't have to wait a week. We don't spend the week talking about what happened in that game and how the Astros almost came back and what the Tigers did against Valdez in the second inning. No, it's today. We get to watch another one today. There's
there you go.
Something special about that. Well, good luck to your Tigers. And maybe in a week and a half, we'll be talking about an American League Championship Series between the Royals and the Tigers. That would be awesome.
That would be very fun.
Yes.
And then maybe we can follow that up with a Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Lions. That's called the Cynthia wins either way.
So close. It was so close last year.
I just don't want to be the
so
team
close.
that, I don't want to have to cheer against the Lions, so I don't really
That's true.
I don't
That's a
want
good
that.
point. That's a good point because
I
I'm
don't
with
know
it.
if anyone does, to be fair,
No.
because
True.
it's like, oh no, like
Yeah, they're a
so
likable
bad for
team,
so
and
long.
I love Campbell. Like they're a likable. Jared Goff was perfect and didn't even get the game ball. Like that's
It didn't have a perfect passer rating. Like,
Yeah.
what do you have to do
Right, Cynthia.
for a perfect passer
didn't
rating?
have a perfect passer
I'm going to
rating.
be honest with you. I just think that means Dan Campbell expects that kind of
That's a
perfection.
good point.
From him. I think it's a compliment.
That's
you
a
know?
good point. Even
Like,
though he said he felt terrible.
That's what I think.
Even though it's like, well, God, I feel terrible. I didn't realize he was perfect. On the
He's
day.
motivating him. That's what Dan Campbell does.
Not good enough. 18 of 18. Yeah, be 19 of 18 next time. Okay, be better. There's no such thing as a perfect game, Jared. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, as always, appreciate it. Enjoy the football and the baseball, and we will talk next Wednesday.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Yes, you too. There's Cynthia Freeland, Tigers fan, Lions fan, and math fan, joining us here as the Chiefs will get ready for the Saints coming up on Monday night. She's got it as if Taysom Hill plays, a 4-point win for the Chiefs. If he doesn't, then that score goes a little heavier in the Chiefs' favor. He is sort of that jack of all trades, that Swiss Army knife that they use, and he had both rushing touchdowns over the weekend. He had, once they got inside the 10, like he carried the ball and got both touchdowns and then ends up getting hurt, whether that was like a chest, a rib, or a midsection, something along those lines. I don't think it was like a hernia or anything like that, but we'll see if he ends up playing this Monday night, and we'll see if that Monday night will be a pretty amazing Monday night around here. Because it could be, and hopefully it is, Chiefs taking on the Saints and kick off 1 hour after Game 2 of the American League Divisional Series of Royals and Yankees in Yankee Stadium. How badass would that have been if it was Game 3 of the American League Divisional Series and it was in Kansas City? Because they're not moving Monday night. But, of course, then I guess they would just play that game earlier. It was in Kansas City. In New York, they're playing it at night. That would make sense. Yeah, they would just play it earlier. But still, it would be a double dip. You would have a playoff game there at Kauffman and then a Monday Night Football game there at Arrowhead. Maybe one of the last times we'd be able to do that, but not the case. They're in New York. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll get back into some Royals baseball coming up next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Coming up a little less than an hour from now, we'll talk with Braden Gall, a little college football. K-State getting the bye week. KU heading to Arizona State. Mizzou heading down to Kyle Field, taking on A&M. We'll talk with Braden Gall a little about that as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Let's hear from, you know what? Let's hear from stoic, serious, straight to the point, no emotion, robotic Cole Reagans. And if you want to know why this guy can keep his composure on the mound, because after going out and doing that in the game, here's Cole Reagans, very demonstrative and theatrical in his answers about the postgame, his injury, the overall outing, and winning Game 1.
Yeah, I just felt it kind of grabbing a little bit. Didn't want to push it too far, want to be healthy. Plan on having, quite a few more starts. So just didn't want to push it to where it ends up, being something more serious than it needs to be.
Was it something where you could have gone out, but obviously looking toward the future?
If we wanted to push it potentially, but I didn't want to push it. Felt, it was there. Like it was every pitch. I could feel it there for the last, batter or two.
You said that you were feeling it with every pitch, the cramping in your leg, and Matt Cottrell was talking about how he could see the emotion on your face, bottom of the sixth. Were you fighting to get through the sixth inning? What was going on?
Yeah, I mean, that's get a shutdown inning right there to keep the momentum on our side. So just trying to execute my pitches, get some, some weak contact, early contact, and, get back in the dugout.
Do you get amped up to face somebody like Burns more than if it's just somebody else?
I don't really get amped up to face an opposing pitcher. It's more so the hitters. Like I said, I can't control what Burns does. Obviously, he's a really good pitcher. He's been a really good pitcher. Everybody knows that. So it's more so, I do my homework on the hitters, and I try to execute my pitches.
Cole, when you're playing a series that's this short, essentially it's a sprint. I know Game 1's always important, but for you guys to come in here in enemy territory and take Game 1, I mean, what does that mean, and what is kind of the mood in the clubhouse right now?
Yeah, I mean, this team is special. It's fun to be around. We know what we're capable of, and it's just, everybody's pulling for everybody, everybody's pushing everybody, and it's just so much fun to show up and play for these guys every single day. So, we know what's on the line, and, we want to play baseball for another month, so it just show up every day, and we pull for each other and trust each other.
Surprising that guy can control his emotions on the mound when he's, that up and down and high and low with the way that he, pronounces and enunciates and things like that. So good for him to completely change course personality when he gets out there on the mound to just even keel the whole game. Totally. Let's hear from Matt Quattrero. The sixth inning was obviously huge with the walk for Garcia, the stolen base, the ground ball, the base hit. Here is Matt Quattrero on Michael Garcia and that sixth inning spark.
Yeah, that was the difference. He works a tremendous at bat for the walk, steals second, scores on the hit. That is the difference in the game, and we know that's his capabilities. We know how good he is at stealing bases, and everyone does, right? I mean, it's no secret, but to be able to execute there and for be in scoring position for Bobby we'll take that chance every day of the week.
2 for 2 in stolen bases in the postseason. 39 stolen bases now on the year with regular season and postseason combined. One more, Matt Quattrero was asked about, were you surprised that Hyde and Burns decided in the sixth inning with 2 outs to pitch to Bobby Witt? I
was not surprised. I mean, that guy was incredible today. I mean, he's got incredible stuff. He locates. That's your best pitcher and our best hitter. That's why you play this game, right? But I would have been more surprised if he walked him.
I wouldn't have been more surprised if I woke up tomorrow, but I had something under the carpet, than I was that they walked him or that they pitched to him. I'm shocked that they pitched to him. And I get it, what Matt Quattrero is saying, like, hey, that's baseball. This is why you play the game. But It's their best against our best. I know, it's your best. It's their best against your best. Why would you do that? There were 2 bases open with 2 outs. And again, a guy that he had taken 2 at-bats since August 29th. We talked a lot about this in the first hour, but still, just to reiterate, when Matt Quatrero says, I would have been surprised if they didn't pitch to him, I don't know, man. I couldn't believe that decision was made.
If it was Salvi up next, I could almost see, because Salvi had already hit a couple of hard hit balls. He looked like he was seeing him. The only guy who was really seeing him well.
109 with Urias play at third base with the short hop. Then the one that he hit 1,000 miles in the air that landed in Yellowstone.
The launch angle was 60 and somehow still almost went to the warning track. You're like, wow.
Was it 60?
A flop shot drive.
It wasn't 100?
It was crazy.
It's a 98-degree launch angle that went 375.
Yeah, so I could see that. But, yeah, Vinny didn't really give you a whole bunch of confidence that he was going to come through with his previous swings. But I guess Bobby didn't either. I mean, Bobby had a couple of really weak pop-outs, so maybe you think, okay,
he's
got
his number.
He's got his number. I do want to go back to Maikel Garcia very quickly.
Yes, I definitely want to go. That's where I was going after just playing that clip with Bobby.
Because Maikel Garcia caught stealing twice the entire season.
Mm-hmm. He's 39 for 41.
The year prior, he was 23 of 30 stealing bases. So Maikel Garcia really worked on that. Whatever the thoughts are, with the lack of ability hitting-wise, when he does get on base, he's really honed in that skill. He obviously has a green light, and we saw the delayed steal. Basically, whenever
that's great.
I'm typically not a fan of the delayed steal, but when you get it works. When it works, it works, and it worked against Adley.
I'm not a fan of the delayed steal when the shift has a guy right behind second base. I'm a fan of the delayed steal if, say, you've got guys at second base and shortstop.
Sure.
So it takes them longer. That delayed steal, guy just ran straight forward.
Yeah.
You could throw the ball down to second base because you knew the guy was going to be there. All he did was take 4 steps forward to be there at second base. That was a little surprising that you went delayed steal the way that it was set up. But Maikel Garcia, he's not a guy that walks a whole lot, and he worked that walk, fouling off a slider, fouling off a cutter, and then taking the pitch inside, not just saying 3-2, I'm going to swing. I fouled off the last 2, I got to swing. He's going to throw me a strike. And he missed. And Garcia and he missed pretty badly, but Garcia didn't just swing through it because he was going to swing no matter what, and then stealing the base and finding a way to score. Like, I know you said Alcides Escobar like 2.0 because they're related and they've got the same sort of blood and DNA to a degree running through their veins, but we mentioned Mike Moustakas and the way he would be viewed in this town if it wasn't for 2014 and 15. And we mentioned maybe that's MJ Melendez, because MJ Melendez would have a chance to be the Moustakas of this team if he were to. We had mentioned.
I know,
this was before game 1.
After last night,
I know, but this was before game 1.
Yeah,
maybe that ends up being Garcia.
Yeah,
because Garcia was a guy that, man, get him out of the damn game. Get him out of the game. He's making errors at second base. He's making dumb mistakes. There was the slow ground ball to him at second base over the weekend, and a guy that returned to first, and then he decided that he was going to throw to second base to try to get the double play, but the guy was already down the line at first. If you throw to first, you get that guy out, and you get a slow runner in a rundown. Like, that's just an easy play that I think high schoolers make. Mm-hmm. It was just like, what is he doing? The bat was awful down the stretch, and I would have been fine if he wasn't in the lineup. Like, honestly, that's how he was playing. And then he does that in the game and is the 1 run scored. That's a guy that can very easily, the way he plays over the next, hopefully, couple 3 weeks, can change the entire narrative about what we think of Maikel Garcia.
I think yesterday there were 3 guys in the Royals lineup that had played in front of an atmosphere like that. Tommy Pham being one of them, Salvador Perez being the other, and Maikel Garcia being the third because of the Venezuelan Winter League. Like, for a lot of players, they do take that league very seriously. It's not just an off-season exhibition, workout deal for them. So he's played in front of sold-out crowds like that, 30,000, 40,000, that the fans are living and dying with every single pitch. And, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong or go against this point. I think he looked like one of the more comfortable players out there. I think he played free and easy. I think when he was over at third base, when he was on the bases, when he was facing Burns, that looked like a guy who had played in a playoff game before, and he hasn't. That was his first one. And for guys like Massey, even guys like Bobby, that was their first experience to truly play in an environment like that. And we talked about, Paul DeYoung and the splits that he had against Burns. I don't think it was ever a second thought. I think that Matt Quatraro wanted Michael Garcia to be out there yesterday, and it's the reason he's back out there today with the chance to put the Royals in the ALDS.
Do they have the lineup out?
They do. It's the same as yesterday, but Renfroe in for Pham.
Yeah.
That was, my guess was going to be Renfroe in for MJ.
Renfroe's got really good splits against Eflin where Pham does not.
That makes sense. But still, I was just like, with the way that MJ played in left field yesterday, there was a couple of like, even the one that he caught, there was like one of the ones he caught, like, oh, that was a little
the one in foul territory, like over his head, and you're like,
a little nip tuck.
I do want to say this just to give MJ a little bit of a reprieve here, but he's already. I do agree that he is a not up to par defensive outfielder to begin with. When the skies are overcast, every MLB or every baseball player will tell you it is near impossible to track the baseball, even for good, like outfielders, infielders, especially when it goes straight up in the air. Because you think about it, blue sky, white ball, it's way easier than seeing gray sky. I mean, he might have lost it in that. I'm trying to give him an excuse here so he can get back on track, but that's all I can think of.
He's listening right now, so he certainly appreciates the excuse that you're giving him.
Yeah.
That is nice of you to extend that olive branch to him.
I like my left fielder to look like beer league softball left fielders. That's what I like on that play.
Well, I mean, look, Jackson Churio is a good defender, and he misplayed a ball in left field.
Sure.
Now you had, what's the Brewers manager's name?
Pat Murphy.
Pat Murphy was like,
Craig Counsell.
Yeah. Pat Murphy said after the game that, that is one of the rare spots to where the sun at that time of day will kind of be shining in. He's like, so, chances are that thing was right in the sun that he misplayed.
It happens, but
it does.
I'm reaching. I know.
I know. That was one of those where it hit off the end of the bat and it was like spinning randomly. Like that doesn't look like one that would be curving that much the way that he hit the ball.
No.
But also, MJ, there's no reason to overrun it like that because even if it was curving back towards you, you wouldn't have taken like 3 steps the other way. So anyway, hopefully, he can turn that around today. But I really would have guessed that Hunter Renfroe was in the game for MJ, but the splits with Tommy Pham.
And then Pham and left would have been the...
Pham and left. But hey, you never know. I mean, look, Eflin was awesome out of the bullpen a couple of years ago for the Phillies. He was really good out of the bullpen. And last year, 2023, wild card, Game 2, went to the mound for the Rays, gave up 5 runs in 5 innings and 10 base runners and struck out 3. Now, that was the Rangers, okay? But in those 5 innings, he had base runners on every single inning until it broke through with a 4-run inning for the Rangers. But that was a must-win game. They were down 1-0. The Rays were. Eflin went to the mound and didn't have it. He was awesome out of the bullpen for the Phillies a couple of years ago, but his most recent start, that's the memory of Zach Eflin right now going to the mound today, is getting hit around by the Rangers and dealing with trouble the entire game until the skies opened up and he gave up a 4-run inning, and that was a 7-1 loss and out of the playoffs. We'll see what happens with Zach Eflin today.
Get traffic on the bases.
100%. Have him thinking, oh, no, here we go again, while the Orioles players are thinking, oh, no, here we go again, while the fans are going, oh, no, here we go again.
Because Corbin Burns' windup is a natural stretch motion.
Yeah.
Like, if you change a pitcher from windup to stretch, especially in a tight situation like that, and with what you're saying his memories have been.
Yeah. We'll see.
I'm a big fan of being aggressive on the base paths. If MJ gets on, I would even consider sending MJ. Like I would. Try and force the narrative here. I do find this really interesting. MJ has the exact same sprint speed as Michael Garcia, which goes to show you how good of a base stealer Michael Garcia is. He's in the 66th percentile. We're not talking about Bobby Witt, who is extremely fast. Michael is that, like, even that delayed steal, that's all instincts. And that's why I want to give such a huge shout out to Michael for his ability on the base pass this year to not get thrown out after what he did last season. That's a guy who really worked on his craft.
Well, and that's the art of the base stealing, the science of how fast you are, the art, as Vinny was talking about hitting the ball yesterday, but the art of the base stealing that Michael Garcia clearly understands those things. That's where in the offseason the next step for Bobby.
Yes.
He's too fast to be thrown out as often as he is on the base paths.
Agreed.
He's way too fast for that. I thought he might have been safe yesterday, but it was too close to call. They were going to
Does
go.
Ty go to the runner every base or just first? Because I think he tied. And
I think he tied, but they had to go with the call on the field.
Yeah,
Like there wasn't
'cause it
anything
stands.
definitive.
Yeah.
Because the call did stand.
I did the
they
same
didn't
thing
confirm it.
too.
I'm like, if they called him safe, he would have been safe. If they called him out, he had been out. I think that might have been actually one of those ties that you tagged while he touched the base. Then he would have been safe. But still, he's been caught a lot. Didn't he lead the league in caught stealing
Believe
this
so,
year?
yeah.
That's the next step for Bobby. Base running, first to third, second to home, first to home, home to second and third, amazing. First to second, that's got to be better. Whatever Garcia has, put that in a bottle, let Bobby Witt drink that, 60 stolen bases. Could be. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour next. All right, wrapping up this hour. We'll talk with Braden Gall coming up at 12:30. We'll continue talking some Royals baseball. They get ready for the O's Game 2. Seth Lugo and Zach Eflin. Game 2 and 3 have been the games that we've talked about that the Royals had the advantage. They will have the better pitchers today. They'll have the better starter, and they've got the better bullpen. How much of the bullpen do you need? How far and how long can you go with Urseg today? 20-plus pitches yesterday, 4 outs. Can he get you a 2-inning save if it means you're up 3-1 in the 8th inning? Do you go to Urseg if it's 2-3-4 you're facing? God, I hope Quatrero has that decision to make. Up until 2 o'clock, 2 more hours to go. The program with Ren Petra will take over at 2 o'clock, and they'll take you up to 3:30, and first pitch 3:38 for Royals and Orioles today right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. MLB playoff coverage on Sports Radio 810 brought to you by Greenlight Dispensary. Check out greenlightdispensary.com for all premium cannabis products this playoffs. Playoffs?
I love that anytime you say Greenlight Dispensary, he does like the Lil Wayne lighter flick.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
It's great.
Interesting. I didn't know what was going on in my ear. It was in my ear.
It's the Lil Wayne lighter flick. Is that actually what it's like labeled as?
I hope so. If not, what's the point?
Yeah. Light
It's-
up. That's what it's labeled as.
It's labeled light up.
By me.
Oh, fan-freaking-tastic. 913-912-4810. Royals lineup for today. Michael Massey leading off, playing second. Bobby Witt batting second, playing short. Vinny P. DHing, batting third. Salvi catching, batting fourth. Yuli Gurriel at first, batting fifth. MJ Melendez in left, batting sixth. Hunter Renfroe in right, batting seventh. Isbell in center, batting eighth. Michael Garcia at third, batting ninth. So the same exact lineup and position for everybody except Pham out, Renfroe in against Zach Eflin. But even batting seventh in that spot. So Pham bats seventh yesterday. He's out. Renfroe batting seventh today in against Zach Eflin and Seth Lugo. Eflin has way more playoff experience in pitching than Lugo does. Lugo has a total of 2 innings that he's pitched, all of it out of the bullpen a couple of years ago for the Mets. Padres did not make the postseason last year, so he did not start in the postseason because they didn't play in the postseason. So his postseason experience for Lugo has been out of the bullpen. Cole Reagan's postseason experience was none. And he went out there and, as they say, shoved.
Well,
what are you, HR shoving stuff?
I do think Reagan's, obviously, we talked about going into that. He has the
Maybe he and Lugo will be shoving
demeanor.
buddies. Go ahead. Sorry. Continue.
I know it was a Family Guy poll.
Yep.
I get that. That was a good poll right there. But I think Lugo has the demeanor, too. They're both very... If it's a roller coaster we talked about, there's no up and down. It ain't the Mamba, it's the kiddie ride, where it's very flat. This is not, you're not in Colorado in the mountains skiing. You're in the plains, and they stay flat, demeanor-wise. That, I think, is good, especially for postseason baseball and especially for starters. So I think Lugo has that going for him. What I also want to point out, and the broadcast I thought did a great job of this, Salvador Perez called a great game.
Yeah.
Salvador Perez did a great job of anytime there was any traffic, anytime he may have thought that Reagan's may have started to overthink, he would just go out there and say, hey, no, you're good. Here's this. This is what I want from you. And he did it every single time. I think Salvador Perez, having that veteran presence back there, is great for Lugo. Lugo hasn't really been there, done that, as you talked about in the postseason, but Salvador Perez has. I think there's something to that. And by the way, how great is this for Salvador Perez's, we talk about all the time, Hall of Fame case. We think he's a Hall of Famer here. But nationally, there's a little bit of a different storyline, especially in regard to the analytical side of things, especially to the defensive side of things. But how often did the broadcast bring up his pitch framing actually being good?
Yeah. The changeup at the end, or the curve,
Yes.
whatever that was, that dropped in on Adley Rushman, that was pretty close. And he's like, he stole one there. Like, yeah, maybe. But also the umpire had sort of called a little bit around the edges. You know, it should have been a strikeout to Ryan O'Hearn because that was a strike all day. But right, yeah,
his blocking ability, how they were speaking glowingly about the mechanics of how he was getting down and blocking the baseball. Like, I think there is something to that. If you notice this on the biggest stage, yeah, maybe he isn't the best pitch framer in Game 4 during the regular season in April, but come postseason time, look what he's doing. So, again, I think this is massive for Salvador Perez's Hall of Fame chances. I know it's a little secondary storyline here. Obviously, the team comes first. But I was impressed that even the broadcasters were speaking so glowingly of Salvi there.
Yeah. The Baltimore Orioles have switched around their lineup today, also changing out their DH and catcher. So Adley Rushman is catching today as opposed to Brian McCann. That's too bad.
James McCann. Shockingly not Brian McCann.
James McCann, yeah. I said Charvarius Ward when I was talking about a running back for the Chiefs with Cynthia, and Dylan let me know it's Charkandrick West. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm surprised I didn't say Thacarius Keys or L'Jarius Sneed.
It was actually Kanye West.
Damn it!
Kanye.
It was, you know what? It was Devin Dotson the whole time. It wasn't Devon.
John.
The Orioles have switched out. Rushman is now catching instead of Brian or James McCann, but DHing is Ryan O'Hearn today. They have dropped Mountcastle from batting 4th to batting 7th. Colton Cowser was batting 6th. He's now cleaning up, and everybody else is in the same spot they were. Rushman's batting 5th. First 3 are the same, Henderson, Westberg, and Santander. And then bottom of the lineup is Mullins and Urias. Well, actually, you know what? It was Urias and then Mullins yesterday. So Mullins is batting 8th, Urias batting 9th. So different lineup for the Orioles today. Not only just like changing one thing out, which is McCann for O'Hearn. It's the only thing they've changed out. Everybody else is playing the same position, except for obviously catcher with Rushman. But it's McCann out of the lineup, O'Hearn in the lineup. But they've also moved their lineup around.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Well, lefty righty, so not that different in my opinion.
That's fine, but I mean, again, not following the Orioles all season long. Is that something that Brandon Hyde has done? Is move guys around from game to game and putting them in different spots, or is it? Well, you know what? Cowser looked better than Mountcastle, so now we got to move Cowser up to 4th, and Mountcastle we're going to move him down because he didn't look good yesterday against Cole Reagans. And okay, so now we got to move. Like there's a little bit of
but Colton Cowser bats lefty, and Ryan Mountcastle is a righty. I do think there's some.
That's fine. It's all good.
And Ryan O'Hearn now, obviously.
Well, that makes sense with O'Hearn in the lineup because, there were complaints yesterday about, yeah, I get it that Burns likes throwing to McCann, but how about having your 1-1 as your catcher and somebody who can hit a little bit better for game 1?
Yeah.
But if you're looking at it and saying, we feel like we'll score enough runs, we need to limit the Royals, and Corbin Burns is going to throw to his guy that he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
And guess what? Corbin Burns did. And it's not McCann's fault that you did not tell him to bunt.
And he came up twice in huge situations.
Exactly.
And,
yeah. I mean, eventually they did pinch hit for him and took the DH out of the game and put Adley Rushman there at catcher with the pitcher was coming up batting 9th at that point because of the double switch and everything. But so if that thing went extra innings, they were gonna take Corbin Burns out of the game anyway, and you got different relief
pinch
pitchers, all of that
hitters,
stuff,
it
pinch
wouldn't have
hitters.
mattered.
Yeah, it's a short series, so you probably have more position players than pitchers, things like that. But yeah, so they've changed up their lineup a little bit. The Royals have gone everybody in the same spot except batting 7th yesterday was Tommy Pham playing right field. Batting 7th today is Hunter Renfroe playing right field. And by the way, Renfroe has ran into a couple as of late.
Yeah.
He's got his home run stroke back, hopefully. He's going to have to get into one to get it out in left field. We know that. We have gone from optimism. The excitement is obviously there.
Yeah.
But optimism and hope to there being sort of a letdown and a disappointment if they're not playing against the Yankees on Saturday because you've got a 1-0 lead.
I don't know if that's where I'm at.
Oh, I'm
yet.
absolutely at that.
I'm close.
I think it would be disappointing if they don't find a way to win one of the next 2 games against a team that has been under 500 in their last 80 games, the Orioles.
And where the Royals have been, they've been probably pretty close to that.
Well, since the All-Star break, they've been much better. Now, they haven't been great in September.
Yeah.
But over the course of that extended period, and they've got the pitching advantage the next 2 games. Starting
Agreed.
pitching and bullpen, they've got the advantage the next 2 games. So find a way to win one of these games and move on and get ready for the Yankees. The concern would be how many times have we talked about this year that, wow, they took game 1 of that series, and now you got these guys going on the mound. You win one of these next 2, you take the series against insert team here. There are a number of series this year where they've won game 1 and lost 2 and 3.
I really think the lefties tonight, Massey, Vinny, MJ, Kyle, but more or less Massey and Vinny. They need to be the guys that step up because that right field porch is a little shorter. It's tough, man. That's why I like Cole Reagan so much yesterday. Again, the lefty forcing the righties because if the righties are going to pull, you mentioned it. They really have to get into one. It's why Santander has been so impressive with 44 home runs. He's a switch hitter now, but like you got to make if you're a right-handed pitcher, you got to make your pitches. That's why I got a little nervous when Rhino Hearn came up, right? Because again, it's a little shorter porch in right field. You got to hit it high. You know, Cedric Mullins hit one high, didn't get all of it, but Vinny and Massey and MJ, those three guys, if they can get into one, tonight's the night. Because Seth Lugo's, again, it's a righty. That Baltimore's lineup is built for this.
And maybe, hopefully, Vinny, you got a little comfortable yesterday in the ninth inning by drawing the walk, 6-pitch walk. 2 pitches in the first and flew out. Then he had the strikeout.
Yeah.
Then he had the 3-pitch fly out. And then walked. And then took the slider, spit on the slider on 2-2. Because the strikeout in the previous at-bat, he had a 3-1 count, and he swung at the next 3 pitches that were all balls. Fouled one off, strike 3 in the dirt. 3-1 count. That's not locked in Vinny. That's Vinny after 2 at-bats since returning from the thumb injury. 2 at-bats since August 29th. That was Vinny right there. Like, okay, he's too antsy there. Hopefully in the ninth, when more locked in, 2-2 count, slider, low, take it, get to first. Because the 3-1 count, he didn't do that. He swung it, 2 of them inside off the plate that weren't really close, and then 1 that was in the dirt and swung over the top of that one. So we'll see. And Salvi also, in the ninth inning.
Yeah.
I mean, that slider was so far outside, and Salvi still swung at it, and he was so mad at himself, right? You could see how mad Salvi was at himself. Like, they're throwing it out there.
The announcers were talking about it. They're going to throw him a slider away.
Slider away.
Slider away.
Yep.
When kids in the wiffle ball game were throwing you a slider away, that's when you...
They were working Salvi away in the wiffle ball game.
Then everyone knows your tendencies.
They were throwing Salvi low and away in the wiffle ball game. That is pretty phenomenal. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will talk with Braden Gall. We'll also hear from Matt Quattrero getting set for this Royals and Orioles game 2. We will hang out with Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour. More Zone right after this. WHB, 2 hours away and 10 minutes. 13 minutes. Check that. 2 hours, 13 minutes.
Check that.
Check that. Check. 2 hours, 13 minutes away. 3 hours, 13 minutes away. 3:38, first pitch. The program takes over at 2 o'clock. They go till 3:30. And we got the Royals and Orioles Game 2 right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. MLB playoff coverage on Sports Radio 810 brought to you by Greenlight Dispensary. Check out greenlightdispensary.com for all premium cannabis products this playoffs. And we'll hear from Matt Quattrero here in a little bit. And then we will talk with Braden Gall. So Matt Quattrero getting ready to sit down at the podium there in Baltimore for Game 2 preview with his team and his pre-game conversation. Seth Lugo on the mound, Hunter Renfroe in the lineup today for Tommy Pham. And so you'd have Pham off the bench. You got a lot of bats off the bench because they went with the 15 position players and the 11 pitchers. And we'll see, how much maybe Urseg will be available today. Other guys available as well. So, again, like I said, I'd love for Q to have the decision if you're up 4-2 and how quickly do I go to Urseg in the 8th. All right, I got 2, 3, 4 coming up right now. Urseg threw the 20-plus pitches and the 4-out save. Do I go to him now for a 5? Or I'm just saying I'd love to have him have the decision is all. I don't know what decision he would make.
Having that decision would be great.
I don't know what decision he would make, but I would love for him to go, all right, Brian, all right, what are we doing here? What's the plan? Or here's the plan. How quickly do we enact said plan for Urseg tonight, who calmed down, and shout out to Salvi after that walk. Going right out there to Lucas Urseg, calming him down, checking on him, all that stuff. So shout out to Salvi for doing that. So and getting him calmed down. And by the way, Lucas Urseg said last night in the clubhouse that hey, Salvi came out, got me back locked in.
Yeah,
which was awesome to hear. Like for somebody to go, like Urseg could have very easily been like, yeah, we just talked and what we were gonna just whatever. But then he's like, but he said, Salvi came out and I got locked back in.
Yeah.
With that. I mean, that was Salvi recognizing a pitcher that's been around for 5 minutes on this team. And Salvi recognizing in that moment that should have been strike 3.
Yep.
And it's been a strike all day. And Urseg probably not too happy about that. And Salvi going out there and like, you good? We're all good? Hey, we're fine, man. We're good, dude. You're be you. Just be you.
It's why I kept going back to how impressive of a game I thought Salvador Perez had.
Yeah.
I thought defensively he was just I thought it was a great game plan. The nuances of Salvador Perez, again, Yadier and Molina always got credit for it, and it always makes me mad, which deservedly so. I think Yadi was incredible at it, but it always makes me a little upset when I'm like, me, I'm a Casey guy through and through, so me and my St. Louis
I bet you guys go back and forth.
Distaste is fairly strong. But I don't know why Yadi always got credit for it and somehow Salvador Perez seemingly doesn't. But I keep going back. I was very glad that Salvador Perez was getting some love in regards to that nationally last night for it when he didn't get his love during the home run derby a couple of years ago.
That's right.
I
still mad about that.
I am, but I am glad that Salvador Perez seemingly in the golden years of Salvi is finally starting to
in his prime.
In his prime at 34 years old is getting the love he deserves.
He also had 2 of the hardest hit balls yesterday. It was just one was hit sky high, and the other one was a great scoop by Urias. That was 109 off the bat for Salvi. I mean, it's like, hey, a 109 ground out. Like, is it? I mean, yeah, technically it's a ground out, but it was a couple feet away from being a line out because if he catches it in the air, it's a line out. So ground out, 109, he ripped that thing, in the first inning. And you had Massey at first at that point, right? Right, yeah, because Bobby popped out and Vinny flew out, so Massey was still at first. So you could have had second and third for playoff Yuli coming up, which is what I had a couple of Astros fans that were, we were, when the Royals made it to the postseason, or talking about who the Royals may face, and he goes, the Astros fan was like, look, I'd rather face the Royals. I just don't want to face Yuli, playoff Yuli. Which is funny because, look, he got
40.
Right, but also he had one of the hits yesterday, and he stroked that thing into left center.
He's a man.
Yeah.
He's 40. I love his swing because it almost looks, it reminds me of an old man golf swing now where he gets his whole body into that thing. I have no idea
and
how
his back goes a long way from where it is to then swinging all the way back through.
That's my point. It's an old man goal. I don't know how he's able to catch up to these fastballs at his age. With his recognition of pitches must be next level. It must be because it's a long swing, and he's able to still put bat on ball and just guide that thing into center. He gets his whole body weight behind it.
He squared that one up. That was a solid shot. I mean, look, he doesn't have much power. Right? He never had much power. He certainly doesn't have much now. But that was squared up and lined there into. That was about 10 feet away from being a double. If he hits that another 10 feet to the left, I think that might have been a double because they had him shaded to right center anyway. But that was a little more to center than left center. But yeah, I mean, look, he had one of the hits yesterday. It was just funny, Astro fan saying, I don't want to face playoff Yuli. I know that he's been in the minors most of the season, but it's just something about seeing Yuli in the playoffs. I don't want to have to face him when he's been the guy that has been playoff Yuli for the Astros for so long, right? Yeah. It's like a playoff MVS. You know, it's like, MVS, you don't want to see MVS in the playoffs, of course. That's fine if you do. I think it's a little different with playoff Yuli or playoff MVS. Here's Matt Quatrero.
Thank you. Running out almost the same lineup. Just wondered the reasons for switching Tommy and Hunter in today's lineup.
Well, really, it's a tough choice every day for us, really, between in the outfield. And Renfroe's had some success. We just generally like that matchup more. We also know with all the lefties they have in the bullpen, hopefully there's a really good spot to use Tommy in high leverage.
And we'll go to Jake. Now about 24 hours after his first game, how's Vinny feeling?
I'll be honest, I did not go looking for him to find out because if I didn't hear anything, I considered that to be good news. But during the game and post-game yesterday, he said he felt good. They got a good tape job. He was really positive yesterday, so I took the no news as good news.
Jalen, a little bit further to your left.
Hey, Q, you have Seth Lugo going on the mound today. How much do you appreciate his professionalism and just his ability to compartmentalize the moment as he steps on the mound tonight?
Yeah, tremendously. I mean, that's his consistency and attitude, work ethic, performance is something that we've relied on all year. And we're excited that he gets the opportunity to do this in the postseason. It's, a huge part of why we signed him. We hope that this was the kind of game he would be in for us.
And standing on your right, Matt.
Hey, Matt. First playoff series as a manager, kind of spitting distance within your college of Old Dominion. Do you look up there and see any familiar faces? Does it make it a little bit more special to you?
Yeah. I actually have a fairly good-sized group of my teammates that were here yesterday and a bigger group today. It's really special. Those guys are like family to me, and there's probably 40 to 45 of us that still are on group texts and all that kind of stuff. But to have them come, they came to D.C. last week, a really good group of guys coming today too. So that's special to me to have people here, and they're family to me.
Questions for Matt? On your left, Matt.
Obviously, we've talked a lot about Bobby and Michael and Cole, all these guys making their postseason debuts. Yesterday's was yours as a manager, so I was just wondering if you learned anything about yourself just especially given just how intense yesterday's game was.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's I don't know what I learned about myself, but I know that it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, the outcome went the way we would have hoped, so that makes it more enjoyable. But even during the game, I was able to enjoy what was going on and appreciate the quality of that game. That was a great baseball game. I mean, two outstanding pitchers going at it, and then the bullpens doing their job. And I was really happy to be able to look around and soak in the fact that, I think our players were into the moment too. I think they didn't get overwhelmed, which is hard to do when you're facing a guy like Burns and you're not having any success offensively. To stay in the moment, to not let the crowd get you out of your game, and just keep fighting. And that's something that these guys have talked about all year: is just stay in the game. Stay in the fight. Anything can happen. But as far as me, I really enjoyed being part of that yesterday, and definitely did not take that for granted.
We'll go to Gabe on your right, Matt.
Do you manage this game much differently up 1-0 as opposed to down 1-0, or does the sense of urgency never really leave you in a best-of-3 format?
Yeah, I mean, I've given that some thought. I mean, I think, yeah, you would probably manage your bullpen a little bit differently if it was, a must win. Maybe, if you were down, go to your high leverage guys a little bit early or something like that. But, we talk a lot about how our team's been constructed and how we rely on our starters. And, that's what I'm hopeful today develops into as well. But as you saw, we're very comfortable with our bullpen as well. So I feel like I'm very fortunate in that regard.
And standing back by the cameras. Sorry to everybody in the room to keep hammering at the Old Dominion thing. Just wanted to see if you and Vinny obviously kind of share that bond too. Have you guys had conversations about that and, just kind of that common thing between manager and player?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really cool to me. To be able to manage him last year. We also had Ryan Yarbrough on the team, 3 of us from the same school. That's pretty special, for a smaller mid-major school to be that way. And there's plenty of other guys around the league too that are in, from Old Dominion, but it is cool because Vinny's got a great personality and he likes to jab me for stuff, from back then, and I'll give it back to him. So yeah, it is fun.
Anything else for Matt? Annie?
Q, we've talked about your rotation all year, but just they seem really close, all 5 of those guys, and wondered if that surprises you at all, bringing in two new players and kind of hoping that everything meshes well with your rotation.
Well, knowing Waka how I knew him, it doesn't surprise me at all that he was going to help be that kind of a glue. And knowing that Reagan's is a sponge for anything baseball, Brady is, as we've talked about for a couple of years now, just so competitive and loves the environment. And he was on a mission to get back to his, accustomed level. I did not know Seth well at all prior to this year, but as soon as I saw him day one, how he approached his bullpen and how much prep he did, and and then he stayed out there to watch other guys throw bullpens. It started to look very organic early, and that they just gravitated to each other. And so I don't know if I would have expected it to be quite as close as they are, but it's been very nice to watch.
How much does that help on the field too? I mean, obviously they've got to go out and perform, but just given what they've done all year with all of them.
Yeah, I think tremendously because, during the regular season when you're, playing a team 3-4 days in a row and they're all going to face them and, they start talking about things before the series and they're doing it in game and then post game. They really stay locked into what's the task at hand. So I think it helps a lot.
Anything else for Matt? All right, Matt, best of luck today. Thanks so much.
All right, there you go. There's manager Matt Quattrero getting ready for this Game 2 against the Orioles coming up in just a few hours from now. And they're in Baltimore, hopefully, wrapping up the series for the Royals and looking ahead to the Yankees. We'll see what happens. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk with Braden Gall, some college football on the docket next.
Zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Everyone has their own taste, and mine is just better.
All right, let's talk some college football. Braden Gall, owner of the 440 Sports Podcast Network, Athlon Sports, and ESPN Radio as well. Braden, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing just fine. You know, October is a little different around here now because last time Royals were in October, the Chiefs weren't as good as they are now, and we weren't talking about, KU, K-State, and Mizzou in college football, but that is certainly what we are doing right now. But I got a question for you, Braden. Okay, so here's what I want to know. And you're an SEC guy, college football country. Is there some sort of a penance to be paid or a punishment for a friend that has a fall wedding on a college football Saturday? Like, is there some sort of thing that you pay that person back that has a fall wedding on a Saturday in October?
So here's the question. So I don't think I used to, in my younger days, the answer is just, some sort of dismemberment, maybe a limb of some sort. As I've gotten older, I've come to, number one, I think it depends on the demographics of the wedding you're at. And by that I mean how many college football fans are there. And if they are there, especially if they are all a part of a fan base. Now, are you talking, which fan base are we talking about here that's going to be at this wedding most well represented?
Here's the fellow went to Mizzou, and he lucked out that they scheduled this game for 11 a.m.
Knowledge. It's not lucky.
Very easily could have been 2:30 or, a 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock start. He got lucky by that.
Pulled strings.
Yeah, okay. So it's a Mizzou fan base that'll be there. The fellow went to Mizzou.
So here's how I've evolved on this. I've always thought absolutely ridiculous, completely silly.
Thank you.
Literally, our wedding, my wedding was the first week of August because it's like, well, if we're going to do the honeymoon, it needs to happen before the start of the football season. So not only did I plan the wedding, but also the honeymoon. That was before kids and before I turned 40 and a variety of other things. Here's what I've learned I've enjoyed about weddings, let's just say during the season, because my brother-in-law also got married during a Titans playoff game. Now, I am not invested in the Tennessee Titans, but all of my family is.
Yeah.
And what I've experienced is that if the game is happening during, especially the reception, it can actually become a very communal experience if a lot of people at the wedding are interested in watching the game. Now, this is interesting because the early start time, I doubt there's 11 a.m. martinis and bourbon at a wedding reception at that time. So you're going to
for the groomsmen.
Let's say
for the groomsmen, Sterling.
For the boys, there might be a little bit of
Sterling,
bourbon.
But
Braden Sterling here is who's getting married.
Tis I.
Yeah. What's your problem? Number one. No, number two.
I love her, Braden. I love her. That's my problem.
I see.
First piece of advice: don't do it. Number two.
Still time.
But here's the thing: what's going to be fun about now? I was terrified the 6 hours before my wedding, but it was fun when I finally got all my groomsmen to the pregame situation, which was at my house first, and then at the venue after that. That's when I loosened up, and it was great. I just remember shaving on my own in the house by myself, thinking what happens if I cut myself? I might die. No one's going to be here to save me. It was just that was terrifying. Once everybody got there, it was great. If we had a game to watch while we were all getting ready, that would have been actually pretty fun, especially if it was Tennessee and it was all a bunch of Tennessee people. So I've actually come around on if there's a communal experience taking place on a Saturday or a Sunday during the football season in which you all are sort of vested in watching the experience, it can actually be a net positive for those people. For everyone else at the wedding or the reception, they're probably going to be offended generally by your behavior, but who are we kidding? That's irrelevant.
They know who you are anyway, so.
Right. You're getting married to a football fan. That is what it is.
Yeah.
So do you get what I'm saying? I've kind of changed my opinion on that around in that because if y'all are all sitting around having a couple pops, getting
point.
ready for the game, getting ready for your big game, getting to watch the other big game. Hey, like 7, 8, 9 guys sitting around who all love Mizzou. Like, that could be fun. That could be a lot of fun.
See, my buddy had his wedding on the first weekend of March Madness on a Saturday. So that you're describing the exact situation that we had going into it, because games started at 11 basically that day. So
You guys
we
were getting
were.
ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope there's a communal experience on Saturday, because if the Royals win one of the next 2 games, they will be playing in Yankee Stadium, game 1 of the ALDS at 6 o'clock Saturday night.
So you got a Royals playoff game, Mizzou A&M, and a Chiefs game all in the same weekend.
Dude, it's going to be a rager.
Game 2 of the ALDS is Monday night, the same time Chiefs are playing the Saints. So if the Royals win one of the next 2. So there you go.
All we need is we just need one more win in Milwaukee, and we're good. We're good.
Yeah, see? Yeah, you guys just need one more win, yeah, for sure. All right, Braden Gall is our guest. Let's talk some college football. Kansas State, they are the opposite of the Chiefs. They refuse to play a close game. They will lose by 29 and then run Oklahoma State out of the building by 22. We didn't talk about the local teams last week because we were talking about UNLV and the quarterback and NIL. What did you make of the BYU loss and then bouncing back the way that K-State did against Oklahoma State to win 42-20?
This week it's important things like a wedding. No, I think so here's the thing. Like that game to me is sort of, if you're a Kansas State fan, like forget the BYU game for a second. BYU certainly much better on defense than we expected. That's just a bizarre matchup, and sometimes those games happen. But if you just watch the Oklahoma State game, knowing that they had lost the game, and you sort of see the talent from Avery Johnson when it's on. Like he makes the mistake early, and then he comes back, and it's a bunch of explosive plays. And certainly the last scrambling touchdown is just sort of absurd. Like there's just not many people that can do it. And you can see where it's supposed to go. And that's, I think, what you want out of a first-year starting quarterback who's still an underclassman, who is, with a new offensive coordinator. Like it's sometimes we get too excited, and I get guilty of this, where I'm like, no, it's Nico, it's Avery Johnson. It's like these young new quarterbacks that you just want to see, whether it's Miller Moss or, whatever. You just get a Garrett Nussmeier. You're just excited about it. Jackson Arnold's another one that went the other direction.
Yeah.
So you get excited about these guys, and then we immediately treat them like they've played in the NFL for 4 years. And it's like, wait a second, it does take time to develop the processing and the decision-making skills and the accuracy. But what about the talent? And you watch that game against Oklahoma State, and you're just like, the pure God-given athletic ability is just there. It is. And it doesn't mean there's not going to be moments where you have to build on it and learn from this and make a mistake here. But to do it against Oklahoma State, a team that, you sort of need to put away to sort of stake your claim, to later have Utah lose, I still think Kansas State's the front runner in the conference, despite the outcome against BYU and what BYU's doing already. It's just, like, that's what you want to see. And honestly, I've been trying to think all year, like, who's the comp? And I don't know about you guys, but, like, Mariota came to mind watching on Saturday.
That's interesting.
And
yeah.
So, it's not perfect, but they're, tall, kind of lanky, great athletic ability, but, like, the arm is incredible, too. So it's not all going to be there all the time. But when it's good, they're going to be hard to beat, especially if you got a running back averaging 7 yards to carry and, a defense that's generally pretty stingy. I know they gave up a couple long ones to Gordon early, and then they totally shut down. They were great in the red zone on defense. Like, it's sort of what you want to see out of them. And if they continue to play like that, and Avery Johnson continues to polish the game a little bit, eliminate some of the mistakes, kind of continue to add efficiency, like, you got to like where this team is going to be at the end of the year. Because to beat a team like, hypothetically, Utah, Iowa State, rematch with BYU, the style of offense you're going to have to play is boring. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to take what the defense gives you. You're going to have to work long drives. Those are the types of defenses you're probably going to have to beat if you want to win the Big 12.
Is real quick, and because I want to get into Kansas and Mizzou before we let you go, but is BYU for real? I mean, can BYU be playing down in Dallas against maybe K-State in a rematch? They've got some home games coming up against Arizona and Oklahoma State, and then they go to Utah, but that's coming off a bye for BYU. So, I mean.
They've accomplished more than Iowa State. I'm more inclined to believe Iowa State. But they've done more things with the performance again, and frankly, the SMU game is going to look like a better win. But the way they played against Kansas State's hard not to say. Of course, they're a factor. I personally believe in Iowa State just a little bit more. I still think, especially if Cam Rising at any point returns to the lineup for Utah, I still think it's Utah and Kansas State at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, to have a tiebreaker and to be where they're at, you have to consider them a factor. So I think this is the conference we expected. 6, 7, 8, who knows how many more teams
right.
could all beat each other on any given day
Yeah.
and are all going to be contenders most of the season until it finally works itself out in the last few weeks. And I think we're there already with, Kansas State, bizarre loss. Utah has a freshman quarterback who looks good, but that's kind of a bizarre loss to Arizona. Arizona has the loss, but that didn't count in conference play,
Right.
so Arizona still needs to be a factor. Texas Tech looks like it should have been beaten by Abilene Christian, and now has rattled off a bunch of wins and he's got a big game against Arizona. So anybody can beat anybody. It's sort of the beauty of the conference.
A&M Mizzou this weekend, 11 o'clock. We know that 11 o'clock in the morning. They are 2.5-point dogs. Are the Missouri Tigers? How good is A&M and the home field advantage and factor there in Kyle Field? How much does that play into this game where Mizzou coming off a bye, and I kind of felt like they were to a degree sleepwalking through the first 4 games because everybody saw the schedule and said, "Oh, they'll be 4-0 in a bye going to A&M."
Yeah, I think the crowd factors, but not as much as it would if it was at night. So I think that's beneficial to be 11 a.m. This is not meant to be a shot, but Mizzou very comfortable at 11 a.m. What's interesting is the identity versus the identity here. It's strength on strength, obviously, with Missouri's offense and A&M's defense. Texas A&M's offense, with Marcel Reed has not quite figured itself out yet. They made plays when they needed to beat Arkansas, but really the reason they won that game is that front seven just caused a ton of havoc, and they're going to continue to do that, and they're going to get better. They continue to get better as the season progresses, and their identity is sort of coming into focus. We sort of already knew Missouri's identity from an offensive standpoint. They haven't had as many big chunk plays and taken the shots, and Brady Cook could be a little sharper. But I don't really have any concerns about sort of that power structure of Burden, Cook, and Moore and Eli. So I think the offense should be fine. This will be by far their most difficult test on the road against this Elko defense. I imagine it's going to come down to the other side, which is going to be which weakness is less of a weakness. Is it Marcel Reed and the Texas A&M offensive line? Can they actually run the football? They could not against Arkansas until the end of the game, and then finally, again, they made the plays when they had to. I can't believe I'm leaning A&M in a very close, kind of low-scoring game here, but that defensive front is legit, and generally defensive fronts show up every game. And I trust Elko here, but, man, it is a great X's and O's, sit back and enjoy collecting data on both these teams, finding out who they are. If Missouri goes down there and performs on offense and they sort of can handle the pressure in the defense, that is going to be a major, major statement to the committee and to the country that they belong. If they go down there and A&M is the team that wins the battles, pressuring the quarterback the way sort of Kentucky did to Ole Miss or the way they did to Arkansas last week, and they just win that battle consistently all game long, you're going to start hearing conversations about A&M being a top 15 team. So this is a very real playoff-ish type of game for both teams where strength on strength and weakness on weakness, and I'm excited to just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. Braden Gall, owner 440 Sports Podcast Network, Athlon Sports, ESPN Radio. Real quick, KU heads to Arizona State. They are 3-point dogs as well. That's Saturday night. 1-4 are the KU Jayhawks, and there's been conversation around here. Is it Jalen Daniels? Is it Grimes, the new Dylan's a KU fan, so that is, by the way, I just want to let people know, that is Dylan that played that. He's the KU fan.
Gotta do it.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Rules are rules, man.
I don't think that sound effect does the performance justice. Honestly,
it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, is it offensive
I got one,
coordinator?
actually. Hang on one second.
Is it quarterback? Do they make a QB change? Is it not inability to win?
Here's a better one,
Dylan.
Braden.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
So what do you? I mean, it's really surprising because Leipold is such a good coach that they're losing like a team that's not very well coached.
I mean, the answer is yes to all of the above. I lean because the one thing that changed, the variable that changed, is the variable I would lean towards.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't take the blame off the quarterback and the head coach. Everything falls on the head coach. Everything falls on the quarterback, especially when the quarterback's the one making a lot of the bizarre decisions. I don't know if you go away from him, though. At this point, the season kind of is what it is already, and so do you want to sort of let him figure it out and work your way back into the I don't know. This is
Yeah.
I mean, of all the teams, I mean, you guys know me. I've been around with you guys enough. I'm a huge Leipold fan. I'm a huge Daniels fan. I'm a huge what Kansas has done fan. And so this is among the most shocking and disappointing teams in the entire country. And just to even be able to say that about Kansas football is pretty bizarre just in general. But it doesn't change the fact that there were very high expectations and a top 25 season was expected. And now you're staring down the barrel of not going to a bowl game. And that's a problem. It doesn't change, I don't think, the long-term sort of like, all right, you still have a coach, you still could be committed to football, but, you know, like there's still a lot of good stuff, long-term, big picture. But certainly in the middle of it, I mean, I have no answers for you guys. Like, I wish I did, but I would lean more towards the variable that changed when everything was great, and then not great, versus, and then sort of put some blame on the other folks as well. But at the same, but again, it's like everybody sort of it hangs on everybody. Everybody's got to take blame on this one, and yeah, again, just a huge bummer. Like nothing I can say as an outsider watching it. Just saying, I wish this wasn't happening.
Yeah. And they need to go to and they need to win and see if they can go to Phoenix and get a win against Arizona State. Braden Gall, owner of the 440 Sports Podcast Network, Athlon Sports, ESPN Radio. Braden, you're the man. Very much appreciate the time. We will talk next week.
Always a pleasure, boys. Thanks.
Absolutely. There's Braden Gall, college football insider, and yeah, it's been disappointing, obviously, for KU. K-State refuses to do what the Chiefs do, play close games, which is perfectly fine. If you're going to lose, hey, you know what? The fans don't have to sweat it out in the second half. You're going to win, fans don't have to sweat it out in the second half. It's okay.
They're the Bills.
Yeah, you know,
they're the Bills
good
right
call.
now.
Good call. They are the Bills, and as Braden has said from the beginning, he still thinks they're one of the favorites to play in Dallas. And even after we've seen them lose to BYU, come back against Oklahoma State, same thing. So there you go. I don't know. I think there has to be some sort of a punishment for the friend that has the wedding in October. You know, I've always said, like, you know what? Do what you want to do.
You know what?
If you want to get married in the fall, get married in the fall. Until then, it's a wedding that I'm going to. Now it's like, why are you getting married in the fall?
You give me a shot of Rumplemans as my punishment. How about that?
I'll give you a shot to the face. Mick Schaefer hanging out with us until 2 o'clock. That's right. Whether you like it or not, he's here till 2 o'clock, whether he likes it or not. Mick, what's up, brother?
Nothing much.
Yep, I know. Nothing at all.
Not my mic.
What is up? Not your mic.
Hey.
Now it is.
You're getting married this weekend, huh?
Saturday. Can you believe that guy's getting married on Saturday?
Why are you here right now?
Because he's got a job.
I got to work. Yeah, sorry, Mick. Some of us actually have to work for a living. I don't know.
You usually take the week off before the wedding. There's stuff to do.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. I'm very busy.
You got Yeah, you got baseball to watch.
Yeah.
You got more baseball to watch.
Got
baseball
Mahomes
to watch.
talking tomorrow.
Mahomes talking tomorrow. Yep, with old Andy. You know, old Andy Reid, old Patrick Mahomes tomorrow. You know, then a little Friday fast coordinators. Oh wait.
When did you book this wedding on a fall Saturday?
July of last year. I don't know. It was.
You didn't anticipate that Mizzou would be having
I knew Mizzou would have
season of their life.
No, I knew Mizzou was going to have an 11 a.m. game.
You do. That's right.
Against A&M on the road.
No, that was they put that time out. They were in the 460-day window.
That's exactly right.
That was
they
it.
exercised their 460-day window.
And so now I get to have fun watching that and then get married as Mizzou kicks A&M's ass. It's going to be electric.
Will you still go on with the marriage if Texas A&M wins?
That's a great question.
Yes, because it's through good times and bad, and so she's going to have to
start off.
She's going to have. She's going to have to be there.
Bad
to
omen,
me.
man.
Yeah, for better or worse.
You got to schedule it during like a non-con game against Murray State or something like that.
Yeah,
not a day where they could lose. It's a top 25 matchup.
Because you don't want to
man.
be like for better or worse, and that day is already the worst.
They can't lose.
Oh,
it's A&M. They're not going to lose.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
God, what happened to all the waiting for the other shoe to drop Missouri fans I used to know?
I'm there, but it's not against A&M.
This guy was tinkling down his leg for Vanderbilt.
Teeth against Vandy,
You
bud.
were tinkling for Vandy.
At
Boston College, sure, but we know
At home.
yeah, but that's fine. They that was the scare they needed.
Is that right?
That was the scare. They do this
But how
every
about this,
year.
though?
Almost happened against Memphis last year. They do this every year.
They do this every year.
Yeah, but his confidence in Missouri, whatever. But how about his lack of confidence in the Royals?
Yeah, that's very weird.
Just not planning on the Royals being in the American League Divisional Series
They're
against
gonna
the
be there.
Yankees on Saturday night?
The Royals have won a lot more than Mizzou has.
Yeah.
In all sports combined.
They play more games. Yeah, it's fair. Tough.
They
Yeah,
do?
Tough, but fair.
No,
Shockingly.
Missouri plays a lot more games in all sports. I'm saying Mizzou all sports versus Royals just baseball. Royals won a ton more.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and
are you
didn't
counting like
expect them to play?
volleyball and
Yes,
yes. They
I
haven't
don't
won
know
anything.
if that's true.
That's what all
you
sports
mean
means.
worlds, like
How many-
championships. I think you mean
yeah.
games, individual games.
No, I'm talking about championships. A lot more. It's 2-0.
It's 3. Oh, no, it's 2. It's
2.
3 this
Gotta be 3.
3
Gotta be
this year.
3.
Yeah,
Don't
sorry.
they have a baseball
I have
championship
faith in the
19,
Royals, guys.
They
like
do have
19,
one.
Yeah,
with Norm Stewart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Played
Norm,
54, I
Got
think.
a little
Yeah.
baseball championship with their basketball coach playing
2-1.
base.
2-1. Have you guys won a little track or
Wrestling,
anything?
maybe. We might got a wrestling.
You got a wrestling one?
We got a wrestling.
They're
one in
good
there.
now. I don't know. It's just hard to.
I think they may have gotten an
tell.
indoor track one
Okay.
year, like
There we go.
in maybe like 1830 or something like that.
I could see them being good cricket players back in the crochet.
We should have
what's it
crochet.
called?
How about croquet?
Croquet.
I think you took cricket and crochet, and that's how they
You
got
might have
croquet.
won a crochet title. Yes.
They
Might have got one of those.
They were amazing at
My
crocheting.
quartership was crocheted, I think.
Dude, they will crochet a sweater like nobody's business.
Oh, man.
You need a scarf, go to the Mizzou crochet department.
I will say the new jerseys that Mizzou has going into this basketball jerseys for next year with the old school 90s like Anthony Peeler era.
Oh, that's cool, man.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty. They're gonna.
So
They
the only,
they
so
won
the
a
only
championship
thing,
on jerseys.
So the only thing that will remind Missouri fans of winning basketball is wearing jerseys from the 90s.
So,
Good to
guys,
know. Good to
I'm,
know.
I'm filling out tonight my AP preseason top 25 poll.
you
I'm
go.
voting now. First year. Where should I put Mizzou?
Top 10, probably.
225? Top 125?
225 might be a little bold.
If you only have to go to 1 through 25, I don't think you need to worry about
Good.
them. Yeah, I think you're
I
good.
might do it like, I think Sir Ben used to do a top 40 where like,
did.
okay, he's got these other guys, taking applications to put on file for this top 25. I like that idea.
Where's
we'll just see if
KU?
I have enough.
Where's Kansas?
I think they're almost a consensus number 1 across the board.
Yeah.
They brought in so much.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Which is funny because they're coming off a really down season.
What you should do, though, is you should probably take some bribes from fan bases to move their teams up. Now you can
I hear
make money.
Kentucky will do anything.
That's the fan base.
Shockingly, there was someone who had it was
Tapped into
KU, K-State, Mizzou, and Oklahoma State all in the top 5.
That's weird.
It's very weird. Yeah.
Don't worry, I got Gonzaga in there too.
They rounded your top 5. The other 20 schools you didn't even know. Well, I only thought there were 5 schools.
Well, remember 2 years ago when Ari Temkin had Oklahoma State winning, or last year, he had Oklahoma State winning the Big 12 in football. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, nice. Clearly an Oklahoma guy picked Oklahoma State to win the Big 12 in football. It's like, actually, the Kansas guy did. And guess what? Did Oklahoma State play in the Big 12 championship?
Kind of.
Was Oklahoma State present there?
Kind of.
Was Oklahoma State listed in the in the program?
Definitely.
Okay, there you go. So
Definitely.
He nailed that.
I brought one home from it.
He nailed that one.
But also, maybe we should be more bullish on the Royals. They've won 8 of their last 9 playoff series. Granted, it's gone back over 40 years.
It's fine.
But when they get to the party, man, they're the life of it.
The Orioles have lost 9 straight playoff games.
5 have been against the Royals.
Yes.
It started in 14.
Well, if Edgar Allan Poe wanted to be really scary, he would have wrote about how Kansas City and Baltimore are facing off because in all playoff sports because that's probably the telltale heart right there. That's why they were. That's why they were so nervous.
Kansas City.
The heart was Kansas City.
Kansas City ending the Ravens last year.
Nevermore.
The Orioles in 14 and the Orioles this year would be pretty awesome.
That would be so awesome.
And just do it today. If you just do it today, then Michael Wacha can start on Saturday, and you don't have to worry about Cole Reagan's on short rest or Brady Singer starting on Saturday against the Yankees.
I was thinking about this.
Think about it.
And I probably not going to happen right with the cramps. But if you put Reagan's out on short rest Saturday, he can come back for game 4, right? As opposed to 2 and 5, basically, for him.
That's only one day short rest, though, right? It's only one day.
It's only one day.
Only one
well,
day.
They have Sunday off.
I know, but he would have one day less. It'd be Tuesday to Saturday.
Tuesday to Saturday, and he only threw 80 pitches.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. For a game 5 game that might not happen, he'd be scheduled for.
How about this, though? How about this? Wacha pitches on Saturday. How about that? Huh? Wacha
I kind of like the idea of more Reagans.
I like the idea of not having to play tomorrow.
If the Royals win
I like the idea of Royals not having to play tomorrow.
I see. How about this? Royals don't play tomorrow. They still throw Reagans.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
That's what I'm getting at.
With just a 2-man rotation. We're going back to 1930s with this.
Well, then Wacha wouldn't even pitch until
game 3
next Wednesday.
He wouldn't pitch at all. The Royals are going to do a 2-man rotation. It's just
Reagan's pitches Saturday, then Lugo on Monday, then Reagan's is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
What would Christy Mathewson do?
So they would have Tuesday off. They'd play Wednesday, Thursday here, right, and then Friday off and go back to.
No one liked the Christy Mathewson pull. Okay, that's fine.
So then you would have
Who's
if you pitch Reagan's on Saturday, then he would have Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday off.
He could have He would come back
then
on
he
Thursday.
Could come back on Wednesday.
3
days rest.
Short again.
Same thing as it. Just 3 days rest.
I
Keep
like
going.
this. I like
so
this.
4-man rotation.
I like this train of thought.
4-man rotation, just like earlier.
4-man.
Well, I mean, back in the like 80s when you'd have a 4-man rotation and you'd have 3 days rest.
Yeah, sure.
Between. Just do that, man. Why even worry about Wacha?
I agree.
You know, when Lugo can get 2 days rest, he'll pitch Monday and then Wednesday. Why not?
Listen, these guys know their bodies, and it worked out great, and the moves and everything. But with the Lorenzen move last week and the game they won and the move yesterday, I'm like, maybe we push through this, guys. Maybe we just figure it out. Give it a shot with the lower leg tightness or fatigue, right? And the cramps, right? It's cramps. Banana, pickle juice. Let's send him back out there.
Well,
I was planning on the 8th inning because I'm like, he's definitely 7th inning, and things go well. Let's go Reagan's to Ursig.
Reagan's to Ursig. I thought the same thing, and I think that's where a tip of the cap should go to Sam Long. Because there is zero chance that when Reagans was walking off the mound that Sam Long thought, I'm pitching to the next batter.
That maybe helped too, right? Less time to worry about it.
Yeah, there's no way he's sitting in the bullpen going, I'm pitching the 7th here. He's like,
I'm good.
I'm probably not going to pitch.
7's going to go by because I got Bubic in the 8th.
And then Bubic and Ursig, and we're up 1-0. I'm good. I may not even have to pitch today. To then, I got to go out there. Then I start with a 2-0 count.
Yeah.
Then I'm down 3-1 in the count. And 6 pitches later, I'm out of the inning. He was down 3-1 and threw 10 total pitches in that inning.
Tip the cap to Q for not messing around with Bubic there, saying, hey, we don't need a guy to go all the 8th inning. We got Ursig. He can go 4 outs. He can go 6.
I thought after the walk he would pull Bubic, but he kept him in there for one more in the single, and then it was like, all right, go get him. At that point, go get Ursig, bring him in. And Ursig made a great pitch on Santander and the changeup. And also, like, Urseg, out of his 4 pitches, the one he uses the least is his changeup.
Yeah.
Yet yesterday, out of 23 pitches, he threw 11 changeups.
One was 92 miles an hour.
Like, I mean, that's just like when
it's probably he does, if it's that fast.
Right.
I mean, you're speeding up a bat at that point.
But you also got like the Orioles are sitting there going, this
You
guy
really are.
60% of his pitches are 4-seam, 2-seam. That's 66 out of every. We can sit on this, and he was just throwing change.
Now
up,
there's
change
movement
up,
with the changeup, but I mean, 92 miles. That's a meat. It's a meat. It's a meat fastball for these guys.
19 inches.
19 inches of run on that last pitch.
No, jeez.
I was saying, like, that's impossible to hit because you can't watch 100 miles an hour right down the plate for the last strike of the game, and that's what it looks like about 55 feet of that pitch.
Dude, and they had the Carlos Beltran approach there in the 9th inning. The Orioles were just bat on the shoulder. I couldn't believe O'Hearn let 2 of those go.
By the way, and Jack, did he talk about this on the air or off the air when we were talking about Ryan O'Hearn? As if people were like, man, I cannot believe he spit on that 3-2 pitch from Urseg, that fastball at 99 on the inside part of the plate. And Jack was like, Ryan O'Hearn didn't spit on that. He was fooled, and he couldn't pull the trigger fast enough to get there. And so you hold the bat and pray that it's just a little inside, and then they called it a ball, and he went, oh, okay.
I think that was Michael Garcia's approach, basically. Everyone's like, whoa, great, way to look at some pitches. It's like
3-2 pitch Garcia. Well, he had already fouled off 2.
Yeah.
But 3-2 pitch, he was going to swing if it was close. But
Yeah.
it was so far inside that it was like, crap, it almost hit me. Let me get out of the way. So thank you for Corbin Burns doing that. But also, you know what? Great at bat by Garcia getting on. And then that man
I mean, dude, he
knows
got
how to steal a base.
Third base. He got the third on a walk, a stolen base, and a ground out. That is how you need to score if you're the Royals.
Whereas the Orioles had a leadoff double in the third with their number 9 hitter up, and he struck out on 3 pitches. They left him in there, just lay down a bunt.
Well, like I was
Runs
saying,
are at a premium. What are you doing?
Before Melendez, now he hit it hard, but it's going to be foul. The double play, right?
Yeah.
He hit into. I'm like, lay a bunt down, right? Get him to second. I mean, bases are so big here. Stop waiting around for the big hit. It's not going to come with this
bases
offense.
are big because
Well,
they're
stop-
bigger. Rob
bigger,
Manfred.
yes.
I mean, they were all trying to hit 9-run home runs, it felt like, too.
Well, that's what I said this earlier in the show, Mick, that listening to A New Day and then flipping back and forth to listen to 104.5 The Fan in Baltimore and their morning
Look
show.
at you.
So I'm like, I just wanted to hear what they were talking about because I'm like, man, I would be freaking livid if my team had a leadoff double with the number 9 hitter up and our backup catcher, and you let him swing away and he struck out, and then you don't score a run in that inning in a game where runs were going to be at a premium, and then in the 6th inning with 2 outs, you pitch to the batting crown winner versus the next guy up has had 2 at-bats since August 29th, the guy on deck, and you choose Bobby Witt to throw to, I would have been livid. So I'm like, all right, what are they talking about? And the conversation was, this team all year long, they have no idea about situational awareness. They are the worst situational awareness team. They don't play situational baseball. They're built to hit home runs. If they're not doing that, then it's tough to score. But they are situationally, this team has been lacking all year long. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, then I like the Royals to win one of the next 2 because the Royals are pretty damn good at that. But that's how the Royals won because situational baseball, they found a way to get through it. And the Orioles had 2 chances to get a run and then keep a run off the board. Now, maybe McCann bunts him over and Henderson grounds out with the infield in because Quattro would clearly have had the infield in. Maybe that happens. I don't know. But with 1st and 3rd and 1 out, you also had McCann up there and the infield back. It's not that they were technically going to give up the run, but they were back at double play depth with the corners in. But don't hit into a double play and don't strike out, and you got, a run in, and they came away empty. The Royals got a runner in scoring position twice, both times being Garcia. The Orioles did it in 4 innings.
Well, and I mean, that 6th was so much Reagan's, right? That was the one where it was 1st and 3rd?
No, that was the 5th.
The 5th. When Melendez just, and then just to get those 2 strikeouts, just to battle through what is almost inevitably going to happen every game. Defense going to let you down. The bad breaks of baseball are going to happen to mentally push through that and say, okay, I just got to strike 2 guys out. And that's exactly what he did.
And he doesn't typically show emotion, but after that strikeout in the 5th to get the flexing of the screaming, I'm like, oh, hey, who's that guy? Who's that? Like, we see it from other guys. Like Brady Singer shows emotion. Urseg was screaming after the strikeout to end the game, which, because he was battling through some
control
issues and a couple of guys on, and Kerstead kept fouling it off and staying alive, and you're like, man, just come on, just one pitch, blow it by him, come on, fastball, throw it by him, nope, change up. And you'd have to imagine that Kerstead was sitting there going, all right, here comes 99. Okay, here comes 99. All right, here comes the fastball. And he was like, slider, slider.
That slider
change up,
was ridiculous.
Change up, slider, change up. And Kerstead just kept battling. Like, the fastball's coming. Oh, here it is. And then you swing right through it. But like, no fastballs there, which was a surprise for Urseg, but also clearly the game plan, because he can throw his fastball, but he was throwing sliders and changeups to him yesterday.
Back to the fifth, another tip of the cap to Salvi, because, he buried a couple of those in the dirt. He's looking for the double play ball right there. He's keeping everything down, didn't care there was a runner at third, didn't matter. Salvi able to block those two, and he threw the exact pitches he needed to.
Reagan's was locked in yesterday, and his stuff was great, but it felt like his command was as good as it's been all year. And that exact at-bat that you're talking about with Salvi, when there were 2 strikes on McCann, or was it McCann or Henderson, whoever it was?
It was the leadoff hitter, Henderson.
Yeah, so it was Henderson, 2 strikes, and he holds his glove open, like in a bucket, down on the ground, is like, bury this. On the ground. Here we go.
On the wall.
And he buries it and swing over the top and out of the inning. And it was like, wow. Reagan's was throwing darts from wherever Salvi's glove. He was absolutely on fire. And the last 5 starts for Cole Reagan's, he's gone 31 innings total, which is 6 2/3 roughly, averaging out. .87 ERA, 0.97 WHIP, 10 strikeouts per 9. But one of the craziest things is that the last 2 games that he has thrown, so he's got 6 innings, no earned runs against the Nationals last week, 6 innings, no earned runs against the Orioles this week. 11 of those 12 innings, he went to the mound with the Royals having 0 runs. He has thrown 1 inning in his last 2 games of no-run ball with the lead.
Well, he deserved that. He deserved that win yesterday, absolutely.
Yes.
It's funny, too. Even after the 5th, after the 6th, you're still like, he's only the second best pitcher in this game right now, because, he got some loud outs. He was in a jam once or twice. Burns was averaging 9 pitches per inning, right? He was going to go
Greg Maddux out there.
the distance. And to be able to overcome that and get that win when Burns is pitching that well, and then you come today and you're like, well, yeah, Reagan's just shoved yesterday, and over the course of the season, you have a better pitcher throwing today. There's a big drop-off between Burns and Eflin. For the Orioles, you just can't wait for 338.
I was concerned about Burns because he throws strikes. The Royals don't strike out and they don't walk.
Those strikes in the black, too. That guy was just...
If you've got a guy that's going to be throwing strikes, one, against the Royals, more than likely going to stay in the game a longer time, because the Royals haven't really been squaring pitches up, haven't been driving extra base hits. So you're going to get a lot of soft contact and some quick innings, and it's like, man, can they just... I thought run into 2. Can you run into 2, put 2 runs on the board, and win 2-1? That was how I thought the Royals were going to win yesterday against Burns, because they weren't going to walk. I didn't think they would put a 4-hit inning together and rally, and they didn't. They scored a run on 1 hit, and it wasn't a home run.
I was getting so tired of them swinging at the first pitch. And then Bobby swung at the first pitch. Like, okay, it worked out.
Way to go, Bobby.
And that's
way
what
to
I
swing
was
at the first pitch, just like I've been saying.
A little irritated with was that they kept bringing up, like, well, the Royals don't strike out. I'm like, because they don't even allow them to get to 2 strikes. They're swinging at pitchers' pitches. It'll be a 1-0 count. They have the advantage.
That was my concern about Burns, is that he's gonna overload the strike zone with stuff that's moving and cutters, and it's going to be hard to square him up. And the Royals are going to swing, and they're going to get soft contact.
I almost want more patience. Like, allow yourself to get to a 2-strike count, because if you have a 2-strike approach when you're in a hitter's count,
we'll see with Eflin today.
You're hurting yourself.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a different approach. I think they knew with Burns, he gets so much better, deeper into counts, especially when you're behind, and that was clearly his MO. Like, let's get to 0-1. All of a sudden, it shifts in my favor dramatically. I can open up the bag of tricks, and the Royals kind of knew that. Like, we're going to try to take 0-1 away from him and pounce, and it eventually worked. I guess one of the best hitter in baseball.
First inning is crucial today, and we'll take a timeout and we'll continue talking some Royals. But first inning is absolutely crucial today, because the Orioles have lost 9 straight playoff games. So first inning, you put a couple of runs on the board. You've got the anxiety
take the will from them
in the ballpark. The Orioles players going, here we go again. But also, last time Zach Eflin was on the mound in the postseason was last year, Game 2 of the wild card for the Rays, down 1-0 at home, and he went 5 innings and 5 runs. And it was the Rangers, so that offense was really good, but there were multiple base runners on every single inning. He was working out of jams until it opened up in the 5th, and he gave up a 4-run inning. You put a couple of runs on, Eflin's going, great. Last time I lost game 2 last year for the Rays because I couldn't keep the offense at bay. Now here I go again against the Royals, and Seth Lugo can go out there.
Last time he faced the Royals, he gave up 6 on July 4th. Yeah. Somehow got the win there in that wild game.
You would have their pitcher on the mound and the fans in the stadium and the offense going.
Here we go.
Oh no, here we go again. If you put a couple of runs on in the first,
and you and hopefully
Snake.
Hopefully the Royals can bat first. Hopefully they win the coin toss.
Yes, hopefully. Well, they're gonna defer to the second.
I almost tweeted that. Yeah, it's great joke.
The Royals decided to take the ball first.
Yep,
they did not defer. They are the opposite.
They won't be
of
able to. Good luck getting 2 possessions in a row. Okay,
that's absolutely right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
them again.
I've never had them, and I'm still having them right now. I'll have some more, please.
Those rib bites. I asked him how he came up with it. He's like, you were just like messing around before a Chiefs game.
He dropped the end of a rib into the deep fryer. Like, oh crap! Wait a minute.
Imagine wings, but make them with ribs.
Wait a minute. Now you're onto something.
These are just
they're phenomenal.
Insane.
They're phenomenal, dude. That's a great combination of. So sometimes you don't have to combine things that you like. Like, hey, I'm a fan of lasagna. I'm a fan of cereal. I don't want lasagna cereal. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that would be good to put.
That makes one of us.
So, yeah. But I'm a fan of, like, deep fried things, and I'm a fan of ribs.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. And the Chiefs tailgate wings party pack that they got for $30. 20 dry rub smoked wings, garlic buffalo parm to stay hot, the ranch for dipping. They've got all that with the food specials during Royals games. And that goes on, obviously, today in a couple of hours at Meet Mitch Barbecue.
Brother, those burn ends.
And of course, you get the burn ends and the sausage. So you get
my
the
goodness.
You get the jalapeno cheddar sausage. I mean, if you're going to be there, you do that.
The perfect
And they got the
char.
KC kickoff dog, but I haven't tried it yet.
I know, we're
Looks awesome, man. Footlong house-made, the knockwurst, the yellow brick road sauce, pepper jack, fundo, jalapeno relish, crispy onions, farm-to-market pretzel bun there with the KC kickoff dog. So thank you to Meet Mitch for
the yellow
putting
brick
us-
road sauce is so good. I still have some, and I use it all the time. It's good on
Really?
chicken. It's good on anything,
Nice.
basically.
Good for you, man.
It's amazing.
Good for you. So thank you to Meet Mitch for bringing in some food for us. Heck yeah. Getting us ready for the game, man. Getting us ready for the game, man.
Again, like, this is so great. Kansas City, this is what you get. Imagine being in Cincinnati and they bring you Skyline chili.
Yeah, I'd punch him in the face.
We get Meat Mitch, where we get the greatest burn ends and these rib bites. And
yeah,
they've got Chili Charlie there. He sucks.
What'd you think of this? What'd you think of the chili? I'm not as hungry as I was. Okay, great. A great endorsement. Awesome. What'd you think of the Meat Mitch barbecue? I'm in a coma. All right. I'm gonna take a coma when I get home because I'm not gonna be able to move. All right. I took a nap. I took a nap for like 5 days. No, you took a coma. You did not take a coma. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We've got the Royals game for you coming up in just under 2 hours. Major League Baseball playoffs coverage right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, brought to you by Greenlight Dispensary. Check out greenlightdispensary.com for all premium cannabis products this playoff season. Von Miller has been suspended by the NFL. A 4-game suspension.
We needed 6, didn't we? We needed 6. The Chiefs did.
I think it might have needed 7. Yeah, they play him later on.
if they gave him a 7-game suspension, I would think that they just to miss the Chiefs game. I would start saying, okay, maybe there is some
enough
something
with the
here.
script.
Chiefs,
All right,
yeah.
come on, man. 4-game suspension for Von Miller. The violation of the league's personal conduct policy. If we think of the connection with Rashee Rice and a suspension there, timeline for Von Miller, the allegations surfaced on November 2023, when he turned himself in. The case closed in July of this year. No charges filed. The NFL then lets the legal process play out. Then they do their own investigation. Their investigation found that there was something there that was suspension worthy. He was suspended on October 1st. So, November of 2023, case closed in July. 3 months later, they decide what their penalty is going to be. So whenever the case is done with Rashee Rice, whenever that thing gets figured out, timetable could be anywhere from at that point to 3 months. And then we'll see how many games, whether it's 6 games,
Was
8
it
games.
Frank Clark or Willie Gay Jr. that
Yes.
Was it both that happened
Yeah.
like in the middle of the season where it was just perplexing?
One of them happened in the middle of the season.
Willie Gay did, I believe.
And then Frank Clark might have been at the beginning of the year.
But they didn't suspend him until later. I can't remember which one it was where it was.
Either one, they were both like a year later. They were both
Yes.
like the next year. Like Frank Clark's suspension happened a year after
Yes.
the whole issue took place. So, that's where when people are complaining about Rashee Rice and not even looking at the comments that are there about him being injured and the things that were said about Rashee Rice. But, he shouldn't have been out. The less vile ones about he shouldn't have been out there anyway, right? Like, yeah, that's not how it works. That hasn't been how it works in the NFL for a long time with Roger Goodell. Once the legal process is done, then they go through their investigation and they decide on whatever the suspension is going to be, whether there's charges or not. Yes, Rashee Rice has already said he's guilty, that he's taken ownership of all the things that have taken place. But when the legal process is done, and then the NFL looks into things, and they'll come up with their suspension. There's just, depending on the severity of Rashee Rice's knee, we might not be watching Rashee Rice until like next December. Next November.
What are we going to find out first? His suspension or his injury?
I'm going to guess. I'm going to lean injury, but I'm also going to lean suspension happens before he's healthy enough to play anyway. Now, whether he can serve that suspension while he's injured,
I doubt it. But do they roll him out there a month early, put him in uniform, like, hey, he's ready to go, let's start the suspension now, when in reality he's not. Oh, he went to Vinny's doctor. He's great.
He was awesome. Yeah, that's
You probably
so
could
cool.
put him on the 53.
You would have to.
But like the Chiefs could right now. I mean, they wouldn't, but there's still, 3 open spots in the Chiefs 53 right now. So,
But next year you'd.
No, I know, but
you
maybe
wanted
they do
it
the
to
same
do
thing.
that.
You do the same. Just
Although it's weird because when I tweeted that out on Sunday, that I've been giving it some thought that I really think that the NFL should just put this behind him and go ahead and suspend Rashee Rice. There were a lot of people that let me know that he's actually injured now, and it doesn't work like that. That you can't just suspend somebody after they're injured.
You gotta. Yeah,
I didn't realize
Jason,
that.
You gotta stop being dumb on Twitter.
I didn't realize that. I totally changed my mind after I was told that he was injured. I'm like, oh wait, now you know what? Yeah, you should not suspend him right now while he's injured. Also, people were telling me it doesn't work like that. Like, man, I don't know. I learned a lot.
They have very low expectations of a guy that talks sports for a living.
Well, I mean, don't we all?
Hard to have lower.
Yeah, no, we all here. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We will get our predictions on what we think happens today in Baltimore. And hopefully we're not talking about Royals and Orioles tomorrow. We're just preparing for that Yankees series. We'll see what happens. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. One more segment next here on this Victory Wednesday on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, Royals and Orioles coming up in a couple of hours. All right, so we talked about this on Monday. I'm gonna see if we can do this, okay? So tomorrow, taking little man to the lab, the baseball lab, and we're gonna
pointed at Sterling. Is
both,
he the
all of
little
it-
man?
All of you.
Okay.
No. All of you are the little man. So
Okay.
taking little man to the baseball lab on Thursday because we got stuff going on tonight, so not going to the open house. But I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna see
We can
what
do
are,
a
the, what, are
remote?
the, what are the ops. Or well, that'd be cool. But what is the possibility of the four of us going in and having a major league fastball or slider and having the four of us face something like that?
I'm sure if money's involved, the possibility is 100%.
Well, I was going to see how much, if this would be
If
doable,
money not involved.
If it's like,
We'll
hey,
trade,
we're just
yeah.
have like 20 minutes. There's just 20 minutes in and out.
So
Just
do you
20
have
minutes
any
in
of
and
those
out.
like free where four guys
Right, yeah.
go for about an hour?
you could
try and
say
hit stuff like it's like
you
a
had the
free
radio
fun.
guys in. Yeah, you can tell your friends.
Yeah, Mick's going to talk about it on KSHB 41.
Oh,
every
I
Sunday
love Mitch
sound off.
Holtis.
Yeah.
It's Jason and the little guy.
Jason and the little man.
I will. We'll see. We'll see if we can do that. Or we just get there in the box and have Dylan throw us BP. See if we can hit off Dylan.
Again, you can go and do that at any batting cage. They have an 85-mile-an-hour session, and it works.
Is that you throw 85 still?
Not still. No way.
I remember.
If I did, I'm going to need emergency Tommy John surgery on the spot.
You go
Immediately. Your arm will disconnect from your.
Yeah.
How did the radius
It'll
of
be
the
a
ulna
Monty
end up?
Python skit.
Your radius. That's right. It's merely a flesh wound. Come back here. I'll bite your legs off.
There's nothing more emasculating than doing that. You're throwing in the cage there, and they got the gun on you. Like, throw your arm out. Yeah, what was that? 88, 56, actually, Mick. So yeah.
Is this gun even right?
Yeah,
I mean, is this regulation or what are we doing here?
Get the motorcycle out. I'm racing the motorcycle with my arm like I'm Walter Johnson.
Is that what you're going to do? You're going to lose unless that motorcycle is being pushed by the person's legs
Right,
and not
yeah.
actually on. All right, what do we Royals win today?
Yes, I'm going to go 3-1 Royals with cheese.
3-1. He's taking Royals minus 1.5.
Was that the spread?
Sure. I mean,
Yep.
that
Can be.
day, but-
It can be, I guess.
Yep.
Royals 4-3. The over/under 7.5. So that's still the under. And I'm going to say a Michael Massey homer.
Oh wow!
I like
okay.
how he's swinging the bat.
You homer.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that is what we say to Michael Massey. I'm going to go 5-1. I feel like
It's a
maybe
laugher, huh?
I know. I feel, for the Royals, yeah. I feel like they're gonna be able to tack on.
Which team wins 5-1? Which team wins?
Oh, Royals. Sorry.
Yeah, you didn't say.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, Astros. I mean, I don't know.
Well, he said Royals. It kind of sounds like Orioles. Can you sound it out perfectly? Which team?
Sorry,
Royals. Okay.
What's the score? It's
17-38.
Who's winning? The Bears. We'll see. Dylan, what you got?
Royals win.
Ah,